Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the move of what if Deku's strongest emotion wasn't rage? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. A boy leashes all of his emotions until one runs rogue. It was always rogue. Every other thing was soft, easy to take down, easy to kill and hide in places he knew he would never find them. But anger was indestructible, the last standing feelings he couldn't kill off or even chain. Anger is so powerful he sometimes feels it like an earthquake splitting his head in half. Anger is so unavoidable in his life. An angry villain rushed down the street like a bat in daylight, heroes hot on his trail. Some angry jackass screamed abrasive words at a scared woman with female entourage defending her. An angry woman, with looks just like his, wouldn't stop screaming. Meaning, he learnt a very valuable lesson. Happiness was there, but you could avoid it. Sadness exists, but he turned his eyes away. But anger is alive, anger is brutal, anger is visceral. Everybody has a handle to anger, but nobody has a button to switch it off. It creeps in, slinks into your soul and takes over your words, lacing them with a fatal arsenic. Nobody turns their eyes away from anger either. Anger dominates us all as much as a charismatic soul and a bad addiction. So when a boy is born with both charisma and rage, there are too many things that could go wrong. He always believed that anger was what he was, that he was the very personification of hot red veins and a clenched fist. When his quirk came along with its bright, angry bursts of light, and the angry smell of nitroglycerin that was more pungent than ammonia, there was no disproving that. His quirk was a mere extension, but the thrill of it was more than just secondhand. He felt it in his head, his gut, and his useless heart. This quirk wasn't just an extension, it was him. With his head so perfectly aligned, straightened to a single thought, it would be funny if another quirk came and deterred it. The Department of Management is an unheard of thing. Even General Studies gets more love than they do. And General Studies doesn't do much, they won't grow up to be much, and they just aren't that much. Yoko hates to admit it, but the hero students have stolen the show. The teachers try to warmly tell them that that isn't the point, that they wouldn't get much ovation anyways when they graduate to get their high-paying jobs. That's how business works. The people that toy with the economy of heroics have to stay hidden. Slip under the flow of cash where everybody sets their eyes on. Like hiding under a busy river that won't run dry anytime soon, nobody will notice you. But Yoko will drown. To be right there under the clear blue, but having to deal with all that glassy flow prioritized instead of her, makes her sick to the stomach. A money-hungry girl just as desperate for attention, hates the fact she's in 2K. A class that nobody hears of because they think the UDATA courses stop at a now. Specifically 1A, stealing not only the show, but the whole DMN school's reputation. She despises them beyond belief. Yoko should have just become a model, or something just as financially rewarding as it was eye-catching. Now she thinks of it, the general director of bland company name doesn't pull too many roving eyes. Yoko's tried a bunch of things already. Nothing works. The most she's gotten into is a small, mini online article of some unheard-of news company for dabbling in some random stocks that is barely clambering up. And they managed to spell her name using the wrong kanji so people don't even know her. But 1A always gets in more articles, milked by bigger news companies, and they always have the spotlight on them. So Yoko is boiling, all these thoughts attack her as she sees a line of them heading to whatever class they have now. Probably on their way to be targeted by another villain group and have their guts splayed across a million articles once more. She feels herself storm towards them, her quirk igniting on the cloth of one before she can retract her hand. She sees red for a moment, but it's soon washed away by white. Oh God. What did she get herself into? He practically twitches his neck to her, the scary-looking one. His presence is practically palpable in real life, and she thinks she might just choke on it. Katsuki Bakugu. His irises are the exact shade of blood and Yoko almost smells a ferrous scent permeating around him. Like a bloody promise of death. Yoko already feels her tongue rolling apologies pathetically before she can stop herself, eyes wide. Why the hell is he so scary? Isn't he supposed to be a hero? Sorry, my quirk. I didn't mean it. His eyes only seem to pin her down even more. It was an accident, I swear, she mumbles. He's a year younger than her, but he feels and looks a lot older. If Yoko wasn't so nervous, she might realize he's a little shorter than her instead of the towering eyesore her mind fools her of. Yoko imagined her confrontation to Class 1A much more differently, where she was the one taking over their words, witty comebacks, and icy snipes. Nothing like this, which isn't a confrontation at all. It feels like she's the one being cornered. Now she understands why nobody talks smack straight to their face. The bull of 1A is like their hero. Despite how contradictory he is to the word hero, straight up disrespecting the very thing hero society stands for by being here. What the F does your quirk do? Not asking, he's demanding. Yoko wants to die of shame. All the rest of 1A do is watch with slightly piqued interest or walk past in conversation amongst one another. A redhead and a brighter-looking blonde surrounding Bakugo keep their eyes on her curiously. My quirk? It just makes your most, the strange girl tries, your strongest emotion. More there. More available. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She seems to be apologizing to Class 1A rather than Bakugo. In fact, she avoids his face. Idru catches her eye, letting the horrid situation dawn on him. So we'll be stuck with, Idru gapes. Yes. Amplifies emotion, basically hiss. My quirk magnifies the emotion your brain is most used to producing. It kind of quadruples familiar hormones, like dopamine, or, well, basically. She sounds like she tried reciting a medical explanation she only heard once. Rapid nodding, a face burning with regret, her eyes say I really didn't mean to. She may not have meant it, but Idru is already barely keeping up with Bakugo. He's already so mad all the time. Angry at every single turn. She soon rushes off, shaking her head as though trying to wobble off a tremendous weight off her neck. And Bakugo's just standing there. He hasn't moved since she explained. He's going to combust any time soon. His eyebrows twitch, ferocious red eyes snap to Idru. Curious, but only slightly before staring back down at the ground. His hands fist. Idru braces for an impact, but the fist unravels, limply at his sides. Let's go already, dumbass. It's so unexpected Idru has to smile. He doesn't know what else to do anyways. Kaminari sends him a glance from behind Bakugo, which doesn't even encapsulate the amount of worry they share. Bakugo leads their little triad. That we should tell the teacher, Idru suggests. I know that, scowls Bakugo, not sparing either a glance. Promptly ending that line of conversation as Kaminari moves on to something new. Think she was general studies? Kaminari is his bottom lip, already shedding his concern. Think I'm going to try my luck. She was kind of pretty, says Idru decidedly. I don't think you're her type though. He can't help but wonder. About Bakugo. Frowning, Kaminari looks away from Idru to watch ahead. You don't know that. Yeah, I'm rooting for you anyways, man. Try asking Shinso about her, readying himself to broach on a more relevant topic, like the fact Bakugo's on a mood-altering quirk effect. Nobody would willingly date you, Bakugo snarks. Wow, harsh, Kaminari comments, brows skewed with hurt. Before he can continue, Ishido pops in. Hiya Blasty, how you feeling? Muted cheerfulness, and as though awaiting some type of fast response, she quickly bobs away. As though she would have been hit if she stayed too long. Ishido always says what's on Idru's mind with a sureness he couldn't even hope to imitate. Damn it. Bakugo doesn't say anything though, speeding ahead to avoid the questions so blatantly. The newly made triad, Idru, Kaminari, and Ishido, watch him disappear behind a corridor. Huh. Ishido says, shrugging, maybe the quirk made him so angry it's in the negatives? Or he's so angry he's rushing off to training to kill us all, whines Kaminari drastically. We need to tell Aizawa about this. Idru decides. Their disconnected conversation goes nowhere, so the walk to the gym is quiet. When they enter the UDAP room, with its high ceilings and RBB flooring that soaks in the lights hazily, Bakugu's talking to All Might and Aizawa near the open change rooms being bombarded by students. Aijuru knows it's Bakugu because he can see the mop of blonde spiky hair from the back. Okay, Aijuru doesn't need to tell Aizawa. When Aijuru reaches the change room, Kaminari at his side, he's trying to fix his eyes on Bakugu in the hope of maybe being acknowledged. But All Might and Bakugu are already heading the opposite way by the time he gets the chance. Wherever they go, Aijuru is clueless. Maybe to see the girl? Maybe to call his parents? Nizu? A classroom? Bakugu's his best friend, for sure. But he can be quite problematic. A little. Okay, that's a huge understatement, but Aijuru's sticking by him. Even if his problems might be tripled under the specter of some unlikely quirk. Sniff. It breaks in half, a perfectly fine pencil that had been tormented between Kaken's fingers. The smell of charred wood smokes from the jagged, frayed edges, and Midnight is unhappy. She turns his head to him, but he doesn't look up. She does that thing where she's quiet for a while, directing everybody's attention to the culprit of her agitation, until everybody's just as quiet. Usually Kaken would be headstrong, staring right back at Midnight with more than just passive aggression. Izuku was pretty convinced it was just their little game, or maybe it wasn't and they really did annoy each other that much. Midnight struts over to Kaken's desk, slamming an attention-grabbing hand on his desk. She had relented with his lack of focus. A wide-eyed Kaken, who quickly recomposes, meets her eye. Unsure, then his shoulders sag in realization and he clicks his tongue, facing back down to his sheet. Ignoring her heated stare somehow, a stare that would usually yank the student's chin up to meet her without her having to lift a hand. Midnight's whispering is far too quiet to be heard, and Izuku sits right behind Kaken. A Kaken who doesn't acknowledge her words and calmly continues the worksheet below him. Izuku's sure this emotion is agitation. It reeks of it in the way he holds himself. He's snapping every few moments and is so restless. Using the graphite part of the snapped pencil to write. Izuku calmly hands Kaken a pencil in the middle of class. Kaken doesn't look at him when he takes it, a mechanical pencil, which becomes melted plastic by the end of the PRD. Izuku doesn't need it, so he doesn't ask for it. Do you think we're friends? Denki prompts, seated atop the slim backrest of the common room couch, legs hanging around Kirishima like the straps of a backpack. They're all looking at Bakugu, awaiting an answer. Or a reaction. He has been a lot softer if you can call somebody as hardcore as Bakugu that than usual ever since that quirk incident. Bakugu doesn't even respond, just letting an ugly scowl settle over his face. It'll get stuck like that one day. Hey, when's it ending anyways? Kirishima asks. It takes a while, and the barest amount of stifled worry makes it across Bakugu's face. It's weird because he's usually not that transparent, it's temporary. It is, whines Denki, and before Bakugu can snap. How does it feel? Midoriya inputs, which is never a good idea. Kaken here, though, doesn't avoid the question. He just avoids the sight of the person asking. Weird, he admits, then catches himself a little too late. What's it to you anyways? Nothing, just curious. I think you're feeling agitation, Kaken. Bakugu and Midoriya having a conversation? What a weird dream Denki is in. Bakugu scoffs, which causes Midoriya to frown. Is it not? Midoriya attempts. I can help. Oh if off. Bakugu scorns. Denki embarrassingly flinches at the unexpected raise of voice, which he was sure he was getting used to nowadays. I know what the F I'm feeling, so it's not your shitty problem. Midoriya looks at Bakugu a little longer, probably studying him. Deciding this is not of interest anymore, Denki hops off the back of the couch, deciding to embark on a new adventure he likes to call, What treats are at the back of the pantry? Where's Bakugu? Kyoka keeps her eyes trained on the clock, swallowing up every second in its endless, repetitive motion. He's going to be late to class soon, then he'll really explode. It's like he's been on the verge of an eruption this whole week, and every day he wakes up to find out he doesn't feel normal, it gets worse. Kyoka can see it, she thinks everybody can. You'd have to be a very intricate brand of blind not to, that's why she's been avoiding him. If she can also evade a particularly bad tantrum, she has no problem with that. I don't know, Kirishima admits. She hadn't been asking him in particular, but she supposes he's probably the most likely to know. If he doesn't know, then nobody does. Except Deku, and as though everybody else had the same thought process, they're all now looking at him who's scribbling feverishly in that notebook of his. It takes him a while to realize, and when he looks up for an answer to their gazes, it's Kaminari who repeats the question, "Where's Bakugo?" Kaken. Deku thinks, looks at the seat ahead of him to find it empty, void of Bakugo, as everybody noticed before him surprisingly, then goes through a long spiral of thought, probably ashamed he didn't see earlier. I saw him in the kitchen this morning, and I guess he looked tired. He might have gone back to sleep accidentally or something, I'm not sure. Kyoka can catch the trails of "I can't believe I didn't realize" infused in Deku's voice. She looks at Kaminari, who looks at her and shrugs. Why did she look at him in the first place? Then the door opens, barely seconds before the bell rings, the person of interest now taking his seat in front of Deku plainly. His eyes are tired and look like they've been deprived of sleep. His perfect schedule had probably been ruined for a day. Kyoka guesses he's not used to staying up for a good minute or two. The near shrill, metallic zip of Aizawa's sleeping bag ceremoniously plays as the disheveled man wakes up to teach. Kyoka's pretty sure he sleeps in the school. The rush of training keeps Aijiro balanced, dopamine and adrenaline whirring around his skull. Like a good omen. The training set is detailed. It's a glossy mall with speakers atop its wide pillars blasting out the static of a busy public place. A distinct tone of voices swims through an empty mall, and he knows this is a low-collateral mission already. He sends a winning grin to Bakugo, who doesn't return it and keeps on marching. So Aijiro slings his arm over him, which he doesn't reject. "I'm going straight for them," reminds Bakugo. "I know our plan, bro," Aijiro playfully eye-rolls. "We just talked through it. Then I blast through the back like it's..." Boom. Hot, burning, scalding, stinging. Aijiro rips himself from Bakugo, staring at him in shock and maybe betrayal, just to find smoke, and him speeding up ahead. Little dots beneath a pillar ahead, stragglers by a chocolate store. But Aijiria's arm aches. He looks at it to make sure it's fine. There's a harsh splash of pink lining the edge of his arm, and there's the rest of it when he flips it over, like flares of the fire he got caught into. What's up with Bakugo? He's more careful, yet he didn't even realize he hurt. Blast. Oh my god, loudest Kuda's ever been. Maybe it was a sick joke in Aizawa's head to pair Kuda against Bakugo. No, it definitely was. Raising his eyes, there's a cloud of smoke enshrouding whatever situation is taking place ahead, but he lightly catches some undulating figures behind it. And the sounds of coughing, a lot of coughing. Was Bakugo like this last training? Barely. Aijiro wants to think it's the quirk effect, but doesn't want to blame everything on the quirk effect, like how miscreants blame all their misdeeds on Satan or whatever antagonistic thing below. Yet this is purely different. He speeds up to the scene, hardened for caution. The figures get clearer, the smoke thinning only before another blast. Sounds like Bakugo's trying to keep up the shield of smoke. Aijiro knows for a fact that Kuda's other partner, Todoroki Aizawa's not all bad, is somewhere in there, lost in the smoke. He can see 3 humanoid blobs perfectly, and whoever it is hasn't stopped coughing. It sounds like they can't breathe. There's a murmur of indecipherable voice, conversation. By then, Aijiro is already there, just to find Bakugo didn't even give them a chance. Kuda's down, and Todoroki's coughing so badly his eyes are watering. They've surrendered, no thanks to you, shithead, Bakugo says, but it doesn't cover the question of, what the hell happened here? Aijiro. Bakugo doesn't look up at him. I won. No thanks to you. I know, but why? I mean how? Aijiro would like to know why too. Betrayal has a slick, coppery taste, even when it's light. They would usually win together, even if that meant he was handicapping Bakugo all this time. Could he have won so easily by himself? No, there have been some occasions where if Aijiro wasn't there, things would have turned ugly. The smoke is nearly gone. Raising up to the ceiling, probably going to cause the fire alarm soon or something if Yudare went into that much detail. Saw a chance and I took it. No, you did something unmanly, Aijuru thinks. You wouldn't have hit it with smoke otherwise. He keeps his eyes on Bakugo for a while, but it feels useless considering the fact he never even looks back. He's too busy staring at Todoroki instead. Just melt your ice if you're 30, says Bakugo, a little unhelpfully, but Todoroki, with a very low sarcasm detector, tries it. Somehow it works? Maybe Bakugo wasn't being sarcastic, because he made no move to stop him. Gee, Bakugo and Todoroki can be weird at times. Still manly Bakugo helped him of course, but what? I accidentally punched his neck, Bakugo explains suddenly, rushing in, didn't see him. You didn't see him? Aijuru blinks in disbelief, not because he didn't believe Bakugo didn't see him, but because Bakugo didn't see him? Bakugo sees everything, he's too sharp for his own good. The fact he didn't see him means something, right? Would I have done it if I saw him? Bakugo snarks, training his eyes on Todoroki, who's still guzzling down the makeshift water, realizing he has an infinite supply of water only now. He does it by opening his mouth and hovering a crystal of ice above, then melting it. Also, Aijuru catches a discoloration fresh on the side of Todoroki's throat. Gee, that looks bad, Aijuru comments. Yeah, but Bakugo still doesn't take his eyes off Todoroki. Hey, you're a little calmer than usual? Aijuru gets a middle finger in response, and when Bakugo raises his arm to serve it, Aijuru catches discoloring on his arm too. Peeling skin and in furious red blast stretched across his arm. What's that? Voice just as alarmed as he feels, and for the first time since this conversation, Bakugo glares at Aijuru. A withering one meant to keep him shut, and Aijuru knows for a fact that wasn't there at the start of training. Or whatever you could call this. It was too one-sided and wrapped up to get the name of training. Bakugo doesn't respond. There's no way he burned himself on accident. My lord, he burned himself accidentally. The speakers boom, present Mick's voice cutting off the fake sound of people. Bakugo's team wins. More like Bakugo won. No, Aijuru reminds himself it's not worth it to fight with Bakugo on a quirk effect. Not worth it in the slightest, so instead he closes his eyes, opens them, letting stress die away for a prolonged moment, then he turns to walk calmly back. Bakugo catches up beside him, but Aijuru doesn't make the move to hang his arm over his shoulder. After all, his arm still aches. And there's no dopamine. What about our plan? An unlikely visitor comes in today, amongst two others. He's been in here a lot less than everybody else, and that Aizawa man's behind him specifically. Chio, better known as Recovery Girl, knows what this is instantly. Kid probably didn't want to come here but was made to. Katsuki Bakugo, right? He looks at Chio as though she's responsible for his misery. Chio considers maybe not healing him. Boy, don't look at me like that. Until she catches the harsh burns splayed across his forearm, already set to a deep, fiery red. Never mind. Then Aijuru Kirishima, who's come here for the smallest things, paper cuts and scabs he forgot about enough times for her to know his name, has a matching burn only on his left arm. Except much more feeble. Like usual. Then Shudo Todoroki, a reputation which besets him, with a nasty bruise she doesn't quite catch at first, right on his neck. Second degree, first degree, and the last one isn't even a burn. Don't want to be here, the Bakugo kid complains, retracting an arm. Chio gets the feeling most of his nerves have already fried a long time ago, because she knows second-degree burns to be painful, and there are some god-awful, newborn blisters racked on his arm. The Kirishima kid looks at Bakugo, shocked. What? Why don't you want to heal? Does your arm not hurt? The Bakugo kid just glares at him. Kirishima kid looks bothered, but doesn't prod further. The Todoroki kid, God bless his clueless heart, do you like pain? Chio ignores whatever Bakugo says next, beckoning for all three of them to sit down so she can do her job. Aizawa leaves to wherever the hell he came from. She plants kisses on the oily, peeling skin of Bakugo's arm. He's drowsy fast, but wakes himself up just as swiftly. Still, he's more tame, or was he like that when he entered? Then the Kirishima kid, who seems disappointed he didn't get to sleep here for a moment or two, quickly smiles and thanks her. He's a good kid, despite his pestering visits. Todoroki doesn't react to anything, and it is an awkward position for Chio. kissing his neck swiftly. She just hopes it's not read off as anything too weird. Kirishima and Bakugo don't seem to care. They're having a one-sided conversation where Kirishima takes the lead. I think it's not just agitation. How was Aijiro pulled into this conversation? He's clueless, watching Ochako Uraraka investigate their grumpy classmate's mood alongside Ishido, just as cognitive as her. He can see the cogs clicking in their heads one by one, or maybe it's just them trying to phrase what they have to say right. Whatever it is, it won Uraraka an audience of 1A students. I think it's hate. A second to process what she just said. Bakugo might be upstairs, but Aijiro's inclined to defend him. Bakugo doesn't hate us. That's too strong. Then what is it? Uraraka darts her eyes up to him. He knows she means well, but he also knows that she has a very prominent flinch whenever Bakugo yells. His motions are too sudden for her. One moment of silence, the next to a crude bark. It's not that she despises him, more like she would rather avoid him. Sometimes anyways. Anger, Siro fills in, probably sensing Aijiro's annoyance. He always has this habit of sensing when someone is working for patience. Definitely anger. Did you see how much he blasted on the screen? Like Dinin. If he was feeling hate he would have killed Todoroki. At least he had the sense to stop. Todoroki thinks, his neck clear and the coughing gone. Recovery girl had worked her magic after all. He also helped me. I don't even think it's anger. He looks to Aijiro, maybe in gentle amity. Aijiro tosses him a smile. Yeah, Bakugo didn't even let Todoroki out of his sight. I'd say hate is strong, Yaoyorozu agrees. Like how a predator doesn't want to lose sight of its prey, quips Mineta, a very dry joke in Aijiro's opinion, but it wins over laughter. I think he's been staring at you lately, man, Kaminari adds, very pointedly looking at Mineta, who just returns a nervous laugh. Maybe half believing it. Yeah, okay, it's probably not hate. Midoriya's brows pinch together thoughtfully. Kaken's rough around the edges, sure, but he doesn't feel hate that much. If not, then spite? Aijiro adds. The lack of plan during the hero match still bothers him. He just rushed off no care. Bakugo seems like the type of person to do the careless only out of spite. Huh, Tokoyami, I just think whatever he's feeling is negative. No, 'cause it's positive. Ishido with a look wacky enough that Kirishima knows it's sarcasm. He's actually combusting with joy, of course it's negative. Laughs, a flustered Tokoyami, I was just observing, spite, anger, hate. What a mad banquet of darkness that boy is. Did you just call Bakugo that boy? Hagakure observes with a light laugh. You do know that he's like the oldest in the class? Beyond the point, Uraraka reins the conversation back in. It's either spite or anger. I like serious women, Mineta smirks. Shut up, Jairu spurns. Uraraka nods at Jairu approvingly, then is about to go on before Aijiro interrupts. Maybe we should just ask him? Me and Uraraka already tried that. Ishido drags her words impatiently. You know how Blasty is. So secretive, she complains as though reliving those moments. Aijiro can already clearly envision the two girls pestering Bakugo at every turn possible. I think it's just anger. Ida, who was feigning disinterest all this while, finally spills that he was in fact listening. Bakugo does have a very spiteful spirit, and in cases, I suppose spite can be synonymous to anger, but if we're being specific, anger would better fit his personality. Spite is usually just the petty urge to annoy, whilst anger is more trained to the actual urge to harm. Oh right, he was snapping pencils in class, Jairu recalls. He melted mine, gripes Midoriya. So, anger. Kaminari hunches over, as though trying to push himself closer to the circle of conversation. Practically anger, Hagakure chirps, scaring the living shit out of Kaminari from behind. God, you need to stop doing that, shudders Kaminari. Hagakure giggles. Something's up with Class 1A, I just know it. Itsuka watches Monoma stew around in her room uninvited. She sighs, wondering how she got stuck babysitting a whole 16-year-old. She considers just shoving him out of her room, but Itsuka finds she's too patient for her own good when it comes to this boy. You know the angry boy? Emichem, Katsuki Bakugo? Itsuka ensures from her desk, swiveling her chair to meet Monoma. Yes. Yes, that one, the gremlin. Go on, I don't want to trash talk them. How compassionate. He flops on the edge of her bed, and Itsuka feels herself tense but is fast to relax. Letting the shame settle behind her cheeks for letting herself go there all because the opposite gender sat on her bed, she's at her desk too. Monoma's a lot of things but he's not a deviant. But 'tis a lie. Are you sure you don't want to trash talk them? You looked free when you got the chance to diss the Yayarosa girl. Go on, she groans. Okay, you know the real hench one, right? Probably on steroids. Itsuka guesses and stops at Ijiro Kirishima. Monoma reads her and grins. You're getting good at this, Kendo. Then he pauses. Look, I walk up to the gremlin, and the steroid boy pops out of nowhere. And you won't believe it, he starts telling me off, and everybody's just standing there watching him, his ridiculous hair near touching the ceiling, and saying nothing. Bakugo doesn't even care either. Just letting him do it, Monoma rants. Itsuka snickers. The only good part about Monoma's stories is the exaggeration. You think there's something wrong because you said them off? Look, Monoma frowns. When you're not around I go bother them. Another pause, and that is only true as of now. Might not be when I leave this room. Correction. It is not factual when I leave this room. It's the truth now though. He clarifies, so, I've in fact made ruining their day my favorite in-school hobby, so you know what he does? He laughs at me. Who does? The gremlin. Monoma exasperates. I was personally shocked that he was capable of laughter, and the most embarrassing part of this story was the fact I was slack-jawed. Could you believe it? Bakugo smiled at me. Minute, said his name. No wait. Bakugo. Itsuka unfortunately finds herself interested in the story. Yes. The chained-up one. Sports festival. Destroyed All Might. Bakugo, what's his first name? That Bakugo. Itsuka doesn't even bother correcting him, giving him a glare which only makes him grin. Monoma knows he's getting off easy with these jabs. She mostly takes herself away from whatever drama he tries to drag to her. Usually it's petty, but just like Monoma promised, this one is a unique breed of drama. If you can call it a drama, it is truly just Monoma getting his ego bruised by an even bigger ego. Maybe he likes it when I insult him, Monoma says with a sly grin, and when Itsuka rolls on her swivel chair just to slap his shoulder he doesn't even complain, just grins wider knowing it was coming. So annoying. If anybody's getting off on insults, it's you. Itsuka sighs. You can't leave class 1A for a second, can you? Nope, especially when you're not around. Looks like I'll have to babysit. You, the responsibilities I have as class president. Wasted all on me. Exactly, and despite Itsuka's last word, Monoma's smile seems to rob it from her anyways. Who knows what he'll be scheming these coming days. She'll have to really leech on him. Maybe the vice president can take over most of her tasks. Monoma's a whole other duty by himself. Bakugo's this close to doing something. The air is tense, and everybody's waiting for it. Whatever it is. Bakugo laughed earlier, in the presence of Monoma. And what that laugh, it was more like a hateful snicker, to be honest, meant is indecipherable, but it might be some type of warning to Monoma. Maybe what Bakugo's feeling isn't just anger, maybe what he's feeling is something that took root from anger. Ijiro wants to say sheer insanity, but that's just because he's stressed. He can't read Bakugo as easily, and it makes him wonder if he ever had the ability to read him in the first place. Thoughts like these trouble him. Because it means he doesn't know Bakugo as much as he once thought. Bakugo's favorite color is black. He loves spicy food, and has a deep aversion to horror movies. What else? He's blonde. Ijiro berates himself for thinking that. Everyone already knows that. It's also easy to guess his favorite color is black with what he wears, and the only person that buys gallons of spice and manages to use it all in a week is Bakugo. It's an obvious no-brainer, and everybody also knows the horror movie part because Bakugo vigorously rejects it whenever the class has a movie night. What does he know? Ijiro is unsure. He's never been in Bakugo's dorm, which makes him more frustrated than ever. Is he even Bakugo's friend? No, he's the only person Bakugo asks to train with. Everybody else asks Bakugo. But is it really a friendship if it hangs on some invitations? Well, Bakugo doesn't push Ijuru's hands away, but that's gone now because of this quirk effect that just won't go. Is he a bad person for not liking a more genuine Bakugo? Maybe what's being amplified isn't anger. Perhaps he's so done. Katsuki knows whatever he's feeling is anger. But it's an anger that can't be shaken off, something pushing on his back with the same form-altering weight of a burden. And the rage is so undirected it's dizzying. It feels more potent than anger, in fact. It's an unalloyed fury. Not the pure, concentrated types he's usually teaming with, but something giving him a deep heartburn that feels like he's got some terminal disease. Just like he did after Kamino, the sports festival, and moments he'd rather just forget. And nothing takes the edge off. Screaming is pointless so he doesn't try it, training is bland so he doesn't prolong it. He's stuck, and even though he would love to train and scream, now it's like experiencing a commercialized treat. Something you've thought would be good all your life, only to take a single taste and realize that it doesn't live up to its image. That it's not anything close to what you thought it would be, dissatisfying. That's what screaming is to Katsuki now, something disgustingly hopeless. It hasn't faded even slightly. Spitefully growing instead. But if there's something Katsuki manages to hate more than what this quirk effect does to him, are people who pity themselves but sit around like stationary doing nothing about their sorry state. That's why he's pulled himself here. Before it gets so bad that he can't bring himself to come here. Katsuki stands at the door of All Might's office, mostly a quick excuse to get to see his favorite hero, despite how the sight of him makes these new feelings so much worse. It's before school, but All Might is one of the earliest teachers here. It's no surprise he's fast opening his door to Katsuki, setting his kind blue eyes on him. Young Bakugo. What a pleasure to see you, what's wrong? Nausea consumes him at the very sight of the frail man. Words he had recited all the way here in his head scramble, and it takes him too long to think of something to say, so All Might says it for him. Is it about the quirk? I thought you were a little off these past days, young Bakugo. Come in, I think it'd be good if we talked. Somehow he guesses the quirk isn't one for all this time around. Nodding, All Might steps aside for an antsy Katsuki to enter. The second he closes the door, Katsuki feels so tense, despite the friendly surroundings of a garish office that would be better suited in a creche. All his head is filled with is a foggy picture of dead ground, smoke clearing, and a gaunt figure pointing his hand to the sky. Saying something about it being somebody's turn. Ruined. Katsuki swallows, suddenly wanting to turn right around and leave, but it's too late. It's the quirk, he repeats from a parched throat. The quirk is making me feel all weird. All Might blinks then. What type of weird? His eyes are laden with concern. Katsuki considers burrowing deep in his shirt to never have to bear the strength of All Might's gaze again, but is fast to kill that miserable thought off. I don't deserve his worry. I feel restless. Kind of. Okay, take a seat. All Might rushes to behind his tempered glass desk, reaching below, pulling up a cabinet and whipping out a splashy sticky pad. He grabs a pen from a childish basket on his desk. He tries hard to be inviting, it shows everywhere in his office. Katsuki sits in a beanbag ahead of All Might's desk, slightly tilted off though. A goddamn beanbag. The shame Katsuki feels is exponential. He guesses it's not just because of the beanbag. When did it start? When she touched me, duh. Katsuki wants to SCK the duh back in. He's so damn nervous. So damn angry. Why is he being so damn rude? Right, do you know what you feel? Katsuki blinks. No. Anger. All Might suggests. I'd know if I was angry. Katsuki manages to SCK in a jab this time. Huh. All Might thinks for a moment or two, writing something down in his sticky notes. Katsuki can't see what he writes, but it doesn't fill him with unease. Deku's journalized him all his life, such a minuscule thing doesn't bother him anymore. Ever felt like this before? Katsuki blinks. Winning the U.A Sports Festival the worst possible way, punctuating it with that humiliating show he pushed himself in as the main character, twisting and yanking from metal cables digging into him like talons. It was after all of that when he let himself feel this. And Kamino, no goddamn explanation needed there. Maybe Katsuki would have felt this way a lot more often if he would just let himself. No. All Might squints. I have. Katsuki snaps back to reality. It's nothing good. Oh, that's not, and you feel it often? Besides the point, I need it gone. How do I? Oh, the management student. You want to see her? Katsuki nods. Okay. All Might huffs, cracking his fingers with an outwards flex, then sagging in his chair to contemplate. I'll pull you out of class sometime before lunch, okay? Katsuki nods again. I can go now? Yes, unless you'd like to talk. Katsuki's already opening the door to leave. There are many skills and many ways to practice them, but Izuku finds there is nothing as time-consuming as studying Kaken. Nothing as mind-boggling and delicate, nearly like the work of an archaeologist, digging deep with something as small as a toothbrush just to find a shard of broken pottery that's too recent to be of much worth. Then digging again and finding the rest of it, a more intricate, pricey design. So, of course you have to keep digging till you hit the jackpot, anything less and you end up with what Kaken wants you to see. Or what he wants himself to see. Izuku's not sure, his excavations haven't gone that deep yet. Sometimes he really feels like a tired archaeologist, bread lungs sizzling with debris. Kaken happily has no problem hindering Izuku's thoughts like that. Even now, it's worrying, as Izuku jots in his notebook, another pencil gets snapped from the seat ahead. Izuku's been counting and he's concluded its agitation. All he really wants now is Kaken's pulse. He's been thinking about holding his wrist, but he's yet to do it. Maybe training? But he has to do it again anyways if it's during training. The elevated heart rate from a spike of adrenaline would set his mark off, but it would also be good to compare. Izuku already has papers of Kaken's heart rate somewhere in the row of notes in a book in his dorm. He knows exactly which one, and how Kaken's normal rate per minute is in the high 30s because of his vigorous training normal for athletes. And when training, his heart rate can reach 50. Harder training could bring it up even more. He doubts the rates in training will get that high now, considering the lack of soul that Kaken's been putting into. Young Bakugu, oh midnight, sorry am I interrupting? All Might. He's interrupted the class, but it's fine. He glances at Midnight, who just shrugs. That irremovable smile on her face. No, but Katsuki Bakugu, right? Yes, I'll need to steal him for a while, beams All Might, hope you don't mind? Kaken is already standing, pushing his chair in. Midnight grins. Nah, he won't be missed. The soft jab receives titters. Kaken clicks his tongue. But he doesn't do anything more than that. Deku half expects him to say something. He's still on that quirk, right? But he just stuffs his pockets full of his fists and walks off to All Might. Then he leaves class, door closing behind them, but it's a good while before they move their eyes back to class. Or Izuku for that matter. Agitation obstructs anger. Izuku finds his eyes drifting beside him to Shiro. To Izuku's surprise, Shiro's looking back at him. Then he shrugs, pulling his arms behind his head and leaning on his chair, refocusing. Yeah, Izuku should do the same. All Might returns Bakugu right before training. Mina won't lie, she would have felt a lot better if he didn't. She doesn't hate Blasty, she's just not a huge fan of this one. This Blasty has an idle, unflinching stare off to nowhere. Too spaced out tickets. It keeps her on edge, but she's sure it's anger. There's nothing that could explain the antsy bursts of destruction he so blatantly shows. The sound of snapping pencils that everybody's too nervous to confront him about, the quick training battle that had got practically everybody involved, except a freaked-out Kuda, sent to Recovery Girl. The nitroglycerin on his palms has tripled in pungency, coating his hands like sloshy snow straight before training. And that test they had yesterday. Long story short, Mina really doesn't want him in this class, just because she's unhappy with the thought of another one of her classmates getting sent back to Recovery Girl. Or her. Or someone like Kuda distracted for the rest of the day. Poor guy really. She has her eyes on Bakugu, who walks to the change room, back muscles flexing coolly, and a face too unfeeling for Mina's liking. Wishing deeply that they have solo training. Mina tries hard to keep her eyes in the circle of conversation she has with her girls, but they dart back to the door of the boys' locker room enough times to be noticed. Jairu sends her a comforting look as soon as she realizes but Hagakure broaches, get a feeling this training might be a little more intense. Yep, Jair chimes, I don't have a good feeling about this at all. Same, Mina twists her lips like she's bit into something sour, hope we get solo training. Yeah, I'm like, so not ready to come anywhere close to Bakugo. Hagakure drops the name and they stop beating around the bush. Did you see him last time? Yes, exclaims Jairu. I was kind of worried when all I saw was smoke on the cameras. And I felt so bad for Kirishima, Mina goes on. He's been sad since Bakugo was hit by that quirk. Yeah, Jairu sighs. I think he's been giving Bakugo room lately. When do you think it's going? The quirk effect, I mean, asks Hagakure. I don't know, Bakugo hasn't said a word about the quirk, sulks Mina. Well, I have my own theory, Jairu says thoughtfully, snaring the other's focus, that maybe it's not anger. Pausing for dramatization, the two girls lean in interested, crowding up to Jairu to hear where this is going, maybe stress. Stress. Hagakure sounds confused, instantly popping away. How? Well, he snaps pencils a lot nowadays, I guess. I do that when I feel overworked. And he was kidnapped like what, a few months ago? He also gets good grades, which takes work. He might just be stressed. Jairu examines, her fingers tapping on her chin like a skillful detective. Bakugo's a lot of things. Mina can't help but laugh a little. I think egotistical is a lot more fitting though. Bakugo and stress don't clash every single day. Jairu remains unconvinced, so Mina continues, not saying he doesn't get stressed like every once in a while, but have you ever seen Bakugo when he's not angry? That slice gives Jairu serious food for thought. The fact she even pauses to think already flips her theory against her. She blinks, maybe wanting to keep on dragging her idea out but doesn't want to be annoying. So she nods in agreement, that's fair. Maybe I just wanted to believe that he's more than just angry. The words, judgmental enough that it remains in their heads. Mina can't explain the relief she feels of Jairu keeping it unsaid, but it hangs between the conversation with their moving stares. They don't need to say a word, then Mina laughs at the weirdness of it all. Hagakure joins, and Jairu sends them a weird look which just makes them laugh harder. The inexplicable laughs melt away their anxieties of training and quiet ponderings of Bakugo. Maybe that's why they're laughing. But as Bakugo opens up the male change rooms to join, hero costume and all, their eyes glue on him and they muffle their giggles. Looking like they were caught red-handed doing something they shouldn't have. He doesn't even look at them though, caught up in a world of his own. All Might starts talking on command. Had he made it any more obvious he was waiting on Bakugo, he might have shouted his name. He explains the activity for today's training. Mina's heart cools when she hears the words solo training. And Hagakure and Jairu send her the most knowing smiles, all because they all share something silent about Bakugo now. A communal dislike. Hey, brew. It takes guts to sidle up to Bakugo now. Aijiru's heart is shaking, and it seems he's caught a serious case of cold feet. Bakugo keeps on moving. It takes him slinging an arm on his shoulder to capture his attention, pushing him closer towards him until Bakugo's shoulder is flush on his chest. He doesn't even move away. Simply letting Aijiru hold him in a half-baked hug. The hug wasn't his intent, but it was the end result. He can smell his shampoo from this close, and Bakugo, notorious for being a touch-me, just grumbles, "What's wrong with you?" Aijiru knows he's not the one that's being off. His unease with Bakugo crescendos, and odd enough, he's the one pushing away. It feels like touching this Bakugo means taking advantage of the old him. The real Bakugo would never want to be touched like that. That typical resistance has been torn away. Nothing, he smiles, lying through his teeth. Bakugo doesn't even look at him so he can't see how fake Aijiru's smile is. Aijiru had come here to prove that Bakugo really didn't hate him that much, but he's left in a path of uncertainty instead. Maybe the hate used to be paired with tremendous anger, and it's the anger that's gone. Maybe it was the anger that used to shove Aijiru off, and the hate that asked what the F was wrong with him. Maybe the hate was the withering glares, the silent withdrawal from class activities, and the anger was the resistance and that obstreperous behavior of his. The line was too blurry to be sure. Bakugo's heart was in the right place, but who could say the same about his thoughts? Who could say the same about their friendship? Bakuga's eyes are fixated on the floor, as though that's more important right now. He walks forwards with a slow, thoughtful gait. Not for a second looking back to Aijuru, who's standing behind. Stunned. He really wants to believe what's being amplified isn't hate. But Aijuru can't help but feel a little negativity himself. Why did Uraraka have to put that in his head? Yo bro, what's wrong with you? Hanta plays it off as a cool question in the middle of a break spent in their homeroom, but Kirishima really does look like a lump of trash, all huddled in his seat like that. Steaming and whatnot, and when Hanta and Kiri even begin to converse, it doesn't take long for Kaminari to hop in. You know what's wrong? Kaminari has a teasing grin that lacks the knowledge of what Hanta's trying to coax out of Kiri. He and Bakugo had a divorce. Now he's all sad and mopey, but of course Kaminari drops the subject like an anvil. Irked, Hanta tosses Kaminari a glare that instead shoves him into a fit of sniggers. Hanta turns back to Kirishima, and while Hanta wasn't quite expecting Kirishima to grin or laugh at that, he sure as hell wasn't expecting big, puppy dog eyes of sadness plastered on both of them. Divorced? A divorce would mean we were together in the first place. We weren't. Never. Okay, what the hell is happening? Kirishima and Bakugo being anything but together felt disorderly. The world would have to pause on its axis and turn the other way around before Bakugo and Kirishima stopped being together. Kaminari furrows his brows, pushing himself forward on his chair to really look at Kirishima. Hanta joins, beside, staring him down until Kiri eventually relents with a sigh, taking his head away from the both of them, and boring those sad eyes of his into the face of his desk when he's tired of staring at his friends. Kaminari starts, careful this time, sorry. I had been joking. It was dumb of me I hadn't. Sorry. It's okay, Kiri doesn't take his eyes away from his desk. Could you start from the beginning? Hanta wonders if that was too eager, quickly softening, maybe? I don't know where it started, Kiri shakes his head, I don't think I know anything. His voice dips low intentionally, only meant to reach their ears. Finally, his eyes flash to them, contemplation there instead. But I'll try to explain. All right, Kaminari nods, not hiding his interest. Well, it's no surprise. Bakugo and Kirishima separating felt like an odd dream, no, a fever dream. Start whenever, man. No rush. Readying himself with more thought, Kiri starts. Right, I think we've always, ring. Curse school bell. Had the break passed so quickly? Maybe they'd have a moment to at least get some words through. He motions for Kiri to continue, but he doesn't catch on before Aizawa's behind his desk, eyeing everybody to sit down. The last one standing is Hanta, who promptly gets to his seat. Hey, Kaken? Izuku's nervous. If what Kaken's feeling is agitation, maybe he wouldn't get so mad at him, right? Yeah, Izuku's sure. Walking up to Kaken with newborn certainty, he repeats himself more clearly, Kaken. Izuku has to thread through obstructing desks to finally get to him. Break's ending soon, it always is, but Izuku really needs to ask something. It's a stupid question, really none of his business, but when has that ever mattered? Kaken turns his head to him at the second call, and his eyes die a little at the sight of him. As though he hadn't recognized him by the nickname. What? Curious, but where did All Might take you? He has his own guesses. Something about one for all perhaps? Izuku would like to say maybe the quirk effect, but what would they have to discuss? Only something I don't know. Oh yeah. Uraraka jumps in, scaring the living CRP out of Izuku. Oh sorry Deku. Did I scare you? She rushes to his side. Oh. It's fine. Shaking his hands, Uraraka eyes him for a moment or two. Then a sweet smile gets on her face. She always looks kind. Then her eyes set on Kaken with something that quickly disproves Izuku's idea of kind. Those two are always battling something out, in a bickering way like a... Not that Izuku could ever imagine Uraraka or Kaken ever. Getting it on the thought of Kaken even being romantic is frightening enough, but they argue like an old couple in public. Or something. Maybe a sibling dynamic? No, they're not that close, but... You're so obsessed with All Might? A mellow tone that couldn't have come from Kaken. His calm tone sends toads leaping down Izuku's skin, his mouth gapes. Bakugo, are you really feeling well? Uraraka questions, eyebrows knit in worry. Izuku's skin pales. Quit it with the surveys, you're all so annoying, groans Kaken, straightening out the knots in his neck with a single head roll. Just admit you think it's about the quirk effect. Izuku doesn't like this. At all. Uraraka purses her lips, choosing her words, but a blurting Izuku tramples away any readied sentences. It is? The quirk effect, I mean about the quirk effect. Why is it your effing business? Kaken asks harshly. Just got curious, that's not so bad? Uraraka stands her ground. Get curious again, he leans in close, whispering. They come a little closer, awaiting the answer. There's a pause of anticipation, and I'll throttle the both of you. Not an answer. Uraraka can barely get the squeaky start of her words out before the bell rings. And that's that. Kaken won't say a fraction of a word if he doesn't want to. Defeated, Izuku returns to his seat. Kaken, stalking behind, since he sits just in front of him. Class starts when Siro finally sits down. He hadn't even realized class had started. What's going on with Kaken must be taking a toll on his inner circle, along with the scant friends he's made. Izuku just wishes it passes quickly before something real bad happens. A few steps away from 1B door, at a break. Wonder what the quirk does exactly. Tsudanori carefully places her hands on her chest, her wide eyes staring innocently at a smirking Komori. I don't know, I just heard it was from some girl from the Department of Management or Business or something. Komori hums, her voice lulling in a curious, ghoulish Yanagi out of class, arms hanging weirdly off her torso in a sort of hunch. Boo, she gently chimes, turning between the two unsurprised girls, letting her uninspiring tone continue. What about management? A girl there used her quirk on Bakugo, blurts Tsudanori, and now he's even more mad than usual. Yanagi filters the slightest shock, but it's a look that's soon purged off her pale face. It might just be a rumor. It's got a base. Komori shakes her head. I heard it from the 1A girls in training this morning. I don't mean to intrude, Nito intrudes, striding out the class. But this conversation piques my senses. What's the deal here? Tsudanori frowns, Yanagi drifts her eyes to him nonchalantly, and Komori's grin shrinks just slightly. You'll probably like it, knowing you. I saw you at the door the whole time, Yanagi notes, which closes Komori's grin to just sharply twisted lips. Shrugging with a melodious hum, as though shuddering off the accusation, Nito looks at the fretful Tsudanori instead. She's been nervous about Yude since she transferred, but a lot of it melted away. Except around Bakugo, and that also meant anything to do with him. Don't worry, Tsu, I'll save you from the big bad Baku, nothing to worry about. Don't tease me. And don't call me that, snaps Tsudanori, turning red and mumbling away in frantic English. Nito's smile stretches, Komori laughs, and places her hands on Tsudanori's shoulder, giving Nito a sharp, warning look from behind where only he can see. Then whispering to Tsudanori, and whatever she says makes the girl sag her shoulders with newfound peace. Komori, with an even foxier look on her face, hints, you can check the rumor out yourself, we have 2 training PRDS at the end of the day. Steering Tsudanori away from Nito, and into the class, Yanagi following behind. Purposefully leaving Nito out here alone to think about the rumor. Maybe they want an answer too. Nito's already thinking about how to provide one. He just has to poke the bear. Soon the bell rings and he settles inside for class. The cafeteria smells sweet today. Denki's unsure what they were serving as today's special, but he had rushed to get a heap of it. He barely had time to look through the tables before Siro yanked him aside, tugging him over to the left of Kirishima before sidling to the right of him. He doesn't know why, but he guesses it's about Bakugo. Yo? What's cookin'? Denki smiles at his own joke, and Kirishima looks at him with a tiny smile on his face as well. He's happy he'd been able to extract that from him, but then Kirishima actually dissects the question, and his face falls. It's not been cooking very well. They move to the 1A tables, and find a spot just wide enough to fit 3 people. Across them is an empty seat, but they don't mind. Sitting down. Chatter begins around them, Ashido teasing Uraraka about something, Midoriya pleading with Todoroki to stop saying something, and Jairu and Hagakure laughing hysterically at something. Something everywhere. And soon somebody's in the seat ahead. They know because the chatter shortens to tiny squeaks and uncomfortable turns, and Ciro's eyes lift. They had been cheering Kirishima on about everything and anything, being as positive as can be, before the embodiment of negativity approached. Bakugu. Denki takes a deep breath and puts on the widest smile. What's up, Frowny? What's got you down today? Kirishima looks like a fish out of water. So Denki tries not to look at him. It's like seeing all their progress come undone with a simple person. But Bakugu's all but simple. He drops his tray on the table with a muffled clack, picks up his chopsticks and works on his spicy ramen. Not even noticing how he brings a cloud of doom wherever he goes now, Bakugu slurps his food nonchalantly and sends Denki a mad stare. Out of his peripheral, he can catch some students moving farther away from the table, formulating excuses out of thin air or gently scooching off. If Bakugu explodes right now, nobody wants to be this close to him. Ciro, Denki, and Kirishima are stuck in the center of an upcoming blast with no space to go. Is it possible to be so angry it simply goes into the negatives? Denki hopes that works somehow, and at the same time not really. Trying to find which Bakugu is scarier hurts Denki's brain as well. Ciro slowly begins to eat and Denki follows. Kirishima takes the hint and continues too. It feels like a detached family dinner sort of, everybody thinking of what to say but never getting there. Unless you're Denki. I'm totally going to fail the math test this afternoon, whines Denki, looking at the heap of steamed meat buns on his plate like it's a low mark on his test. Then blinking it away and stuffing his face with one more, so hot it burns his tongue and he has to swish it around his mouth. Hot. 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 Dude, why would you eat it? Ciro says, chuckling. They give us no time to eat. I have to rush every single time, Denki complains, then, hey bro, what did you get for lunch? Sliced watermelon and apples as the side, then plain rice. The rice has some meat inside, examines Kirishima, for protein. How are you going to eat rice if you can't use chopsticks? Denki teases, leaning in and pointing at his utensils. A metal spoon and fork side by side. Kirishima just shies, laughing half-heartedly. Ciro joins with a mocking motherly tone. Oh, how sloppy! How are you going to save lives if you can't even use chopsticks? Learn to use your chopsticks. Denki jokingly scolds, kids nowadays can't even hold 2 chopsticks. Honestly. Ciro shakes his head disapprovingly, back in the day we held 8. My mother held 16. Denki retorts, and by now Kirishima's actually laughing. Kids these days. Yes. Nobody's making you chopsticks. Apple has better things to do. Yes. How are you going to use a brand called Apple but not know how to eat an apple? They can't even use chopsticks for soup. Through Kirishima cackles, Denki even forgets Bakugu's right across the table. Maybe he's not so much of a nuisance. Maybe. Rumblings of chatter, all reflecting ectoplasm's math test one way or the other. I'm totally going to fail. Uraraka panics, speeding around in a quick circle of worry. I'm not good at algebra at all. Uraraka-san, Midoriya says kindly, you've got this. Well, you do if my math is right. Your overall average is around 79%, and the passing grade for this is 55. Uraraka holds her arm out, thinking, then flashing bright eyes to Midoriya's. Thanks, even if it's kinda weird you know my average. Is it, some coping mechanism of yours, like jotting everything down about people? Uraraka-san, maybe you shouldn't word it like that, scolds Tenya, who had been observing the interaction rather than pushing himself in it, until now. Sorry. Uraraka looks to Midoriya but he doesn't appear insulted, just bashful at her apologies. No. It's okay. I know you didn't mean any bad by it. No, I actually don't think so. I don't, Midoriya squints, putting the idea at more scrutiny. I just like knowing about people. I guess, just makes it easier to talk. Really? Tenya questions, out of curiosity, what makes you think that? People like others who can listen, Midoriya shrugs, looking nervous. Eyes roving to Bakugu thoughtlessly before returning back on them. I guess, it's more of a hobby. His face brightens with a smile. That's why. It's just interesting and fun. Well, you can write about me all you want, Deku-kun. Uraraka announces, then her face goes red. Tenya blinks and swallows down his laughter. Midoriya PPS his head and giggles. Ah, that came out weird. You can write about other people if you want, of course. Just know. It's a Deku-kun thing or something. Midoriya's mouth opens to say something else, but he's promptly cut off. A bang kills off the lively din of classroom chatter, as ordering as a gunshot, but it leaves the lingering smell of chemicals. Bakugu. There's another blast, and it's even louder. Kuda startles at the second one. Kaminari practically leaps out of his skin, and Jairu's plugging her ear with her hands. Tenya sighs. Bakugu, don't use your quirk in class. Ugh. He can hear the threads of trouble woven into Bakugu's voice. The scent of ignited nitroglycerin is acrid and coats the room like scented candles. Scared the living CRP out of me. Ashido exclaims. Aoyama basically crippled in his seat, thinking somebody had gotten hurt. By the time Yaoyorozu's at Tenya's side, a steaming Bakugu is rushing off to the front of the room, yanking from the napkin box and mopping it on his dripping hands. The smell of nitroglycerin keeps Tenya thinking that some type of candy had been forgotten on a stove. You shouldn't use your quirk in class, adds Tsuyu, Karo. Wasn't. Bakugu trails off to a mumble, refusing any real answers. Tenya's tired of this version of Bakugu too. There's something awfully uncanny about him, and when it sets loose, he'll be in charge of it. The idea of it alone is overwhelming. You're going to scare all the girls away if you keep doing that, Mineta taunts. But Bakugu's already not there anymore. Back to that Bakugu instead of the Bakugu. Tenya always thought a personality change would help his classmate, but he never guessed it would make it worse. He stalks off to his seat, already beyond reproach. Then Ectoplasm enters, late, saying he didn't have enough copies of the test and the printer had issues. They sit down quickly, the test being passed out, belly down on the table where no ink is clear through the back. There are 3 one-sided sheets in total. Flip the paper over when you're ready. Ectoplasm studies them from the comfort of his desk, eyeing them down with that regular challenge in his eyes. His stares are even throughout the whole class, but when you look up he's never staring at you. But you know he looked at you at least a couple times. Tenya's done with the test in a matter of minutes. He's just looking over it when Yaoyorozu stands up to submit hers. Ectoplasm gives her a pleased smile. First again? What a surprise. Flustering at the compliment, Yaoyorozu begins her strut to the teacher's desk. Past an untroubled Mineta, a calculative Midoriya, and a completely still Bakugu. Tenya's on the whole other side of the room. He can catch their side view, and can see as Bakugu's hand clamps down on the desk, smoke rising in the empty threat of an explosion. Yaoyorozu catches the chemical smell first. She eyes him as she passes a panicking Hagakure. Tenya wishes Hagakure had studied more. Yaoyorozu hands in the test, and by then, nitroglycerin has diffused through the air. It only takes a few seconds before Tenya can smell it, like a candy cane lit on fire. It's not the best scent, so intoxicated with sugar it's suffocating. Everybody's realized, people peeling their eyes off their pages to glare at Bakugu. Bakugu doesn't notice, he doesn't stop, and smoke builds between his fingers as he quickly writes something down in his paper with the other hand. How Bakugu lives with the smell is a mystery on its own. You're not supposed to talk during tests, but Tenya rids off the rule when someone coughs. He's just about to speak before Ectoplasm cuts him off. Bakugu. Your quirk. It takes a moment for Bakugu to realize, but the second he does the smoke fades off. But not the smell. Everybody is stuck with the inconvenience of a burning sugar smell until they leave the room. A scent which is not nearly as great as Tenya would have guessed before meeting Bakugu. The change students stand outside on the field. It's just pavement and the sky really. There's nothing else too impressive here. Except maybe the outdoor stage which Midnight is taking over. Nito watches her glide to the mic, snatch it up, and talk. Boys swooning at the movement of her alone. Nito knows it's a whole other type of bounce they're glowing over though. He never got his chances up for Midnight because there was no way he was going to get anywhere with her. She smiles broadly. Nito fixes his gaze away from her painted bosom, and then Midnight starts. Ever played Hero Scrimmage? Great. Class 1B versus Class 1A? Everybody. Her voice is excited, but Nito catches a differing Shinso nearby. Furrowed eyebrows, knowing he makes the number an odd one by joining. They can't make him sit out, right? Shinsu's raising his hand when, "It's no problem, Shinso." All Might has a wide, welcoming smile as he walks out from behind the stage. So happy Nito doubts he's realized Shinso odds the number, Bakugu's stepping out for a while. Then Nito realizes, too late, that Bakugu's right beside him. They both walk from behind the stage. Nito checks for more people maybe coming from behind the platform, but there's nobody else. When did that happen? He usually keeps his eyes on 1A students. Especially Bakugu, who's always loud enough to be noticed, but now he really looks like those extras he despises. Head facing the ground, and hair pale and dull, his sharp eyes don't make an appearance under drooping locks. Nito wonders if Bakugu might be depressed for a moment. He looks like a real emo, and how does he walk without hitting the stage when he's staring at the ground? Another good reason to despise him. All Might sends Shinso a wizened smile on his thin face. Shinso's confused, but, "Thanks, Bakugu, I guess." Midnight eyes All Might suspiciously, but he simply shrugs. Like he was just as lost. The perpetual smile on her face vanishes for a moment, but then she rolls her eyes, getting over it with the ease Nito can't summon, and facing back to the class, "Okay. I'll say the rules." The set remained unnamed, but it looks like the scraps of warfare. Decrepit houses with holes, sandy air, torn down walls, and a million places to hide behind. There's a ricochet of noise on the left side from the manga guy, a slithering dark shadow beneath the ledge of buildings, and a heated melee that's taken place on the far right. Standing on the veranda high above the set, where usually only supervising teachers are, Katsuki can see everything. It's weird watching them from a bird's eye view. Knowing nobody can see him, almost like a tame version of E. He wonders if somebody from below knows he's up here. Katsuki's attention is called back with the gentle squeak of a chair. He meets All Might behind, pulling a plastic chair close, and Aizawa, eyeing them from further in. "Why aren't you out there?" Aizawa asks immediately. "Why are you here?" Katsuki dodges the question with something immensely stupid, tilting his head one side like an idiot. It was all he could come up with in a second. Aizawa's eyes burn, and he does something that's far away from a smile, but isn't a frown either. All Might plops on the chair loudly, then sighs, "You said you were having trouble with the quirk effect." All of a sudden, Aizawa's eyes aren't that hard, the edge taken off by a mute curiosity. "It's affecting your participation in training?" His voice is incredulous, and Katsuki realizes he's not curious, simply agitated. Now he can't say yes or this motherfucker will send him back out there, and no would produce the same result with extra steps. Katsuki settles to just eye him until he shows even the slightest hint of yielding, so of course they would have been there for a while if All Might didn't cut in. I was thinking that too, but young Bakugu is very enthusiastic about training. It would be unfair not to hear him out if he is having issues. Young Bakugu, Aizawa repeats with a near-mocking twang that makes Katsuki furious, can work over issues. He's a very strong thinker. Now he's FANG ridiculing him. All Might laughs. "Yes, of course he is. But it doesn't mean he can't come to us for help." Then it finally hits Katsuki as Aizawa grumbles. Aizawa's picking a fight. He's never liked All Might from day one, plus they are polar opposites. And Katsuki can catch the strain in All Might's hero smile, and he wonders how bad these non-arguments get when they're away from students. But right now he doesn't need them arguing. "Are you going to listen or stand there?" Language. Aizawa shoots him a sharp glance. All Might's smile twitches for a moment before he laughs again. "Right? Sorry. Go on, young Baku." "My quirk keeps going off and I don't know when it happens. It feels good to get it out, and Katsuki finds he can't stop until he rids himself completely of it. It even happened during the test and before that, and I don't want to end up killing somebody out there or something." Aizawa blinks, in disbelief, then thoroughly studies Katsuki, as if about to deny whatever he just said or ignore it. All Might's smile freezes. He pps his head, squinting in thought, before nodding, then squinting again. Smile frozen on his face, but it had stopped reaching his eyes after the first squint. That's odd, isn't it? Ectoplasm told me about it, Aizawa admits. He just thought it was just you being you. The word you grates against his nerves, and annoyance slips on Katsuki's face for a second or two, whatever. That's really odd, isn't it? All Might repeats like broken machinery. I didn't read about this in my teacher book. The teacher handbooks you read are useless. Aizawa remarks. All Might frowns at that. Do you have any other suggestions? Aizawa doesn't smile, but Katsuki almost thought he did, to teach them things they can use later down the line. Exasperatedly, that's what I'm trying to. That's beside the point. Katsuki swears he'll claw his skin out if they bicker one more FNG time. At this point, it's just Aizawa testing for rises out of All Might. My quirk ISF lacking control and I don't know what the hell's going on. Calm down, young Pigu. All Might gives a slightly worried smile. Shout again and we send you out. Aizawa's comment turns out to be more effective. Not a shout leaves Katsuki, and he spends the next moments breathing and telling him not to scream his head off. He bares his teeth with a nasty frown though before spitting out, "Will you do anything? We can try talking to the management student again." All Might suggests. That smug piece of... Katsuki swallows it away, taking a long inhale. She didn't do anything the first time. But she gave you advice. All Might says. His words leave Katsuki wishing he had blocked his ears with fists. Just act more on the feelings. The more you deny it, the stronger and longer it gets. That's what she said, right? 'Cause then your brain produces more and... I get it. Katsuki yells, and Aizawa does the thing again. Where Katsuki can swear he's smiling but he wears a straight face. Out, he commands, and Katsuki knows there's no choice but to listen. All Might looks sympathetic, but makes no move off of his plastic chair to do anything, watching Katsuki stomp away off the little balcony that oversees the live set. As Katsuki hops down the marble stairs, the all-seeing balcony, and strangely, he's not angry. The more he tries to anger himself, the more nervous he gets. And the lack of control over his own goddamn head fills him with mute frustration. A frustration that would have come with the contempt of 7 seas if his brain wasn't a heap of fuzz. Katsuki grips the railing, taking the little reassurance in his quiet stroll. The stairs promptly come to an end at a door. Out the threshold is a path. Well, it's actually the very top of the set wall, but it works as a path. He moves up to the scant wall surrounding the door and peeks out. Maybe wondering what he'd see on this side. Pink Cheeks and Ghost Girl dueling, both with the ability to lift sheet. Pinky below aids Pink Cheeks in a desperate attempt to avoid a hurling brick. Katsuki doesn't stay to see who wins. By then he's already on the end of the path, starting down at the next set of marble stairs to reach ground. Then there's grass, sky, and that stage when he's off the last marble step. He hears a resounding thrash from the walled set, followed by a groan, a hit, and a faint crash. Utter chaos. His eyes lift to the high balcony, smaller down here. If Katsuki hadn't been so loud he might still be up there, and he would have delighted in counting all the wounds from spars at such a vantage. But his next stop is okay. A little peace and quiet never hurt anybody. We have a sort of issue, Ashido, Kaminari starts, looking around her room nervously. Shiro beside with the look of I don't want to deal with this today. Mina nods, then pushes aside her laptop like a busy person who has better things to do. The helpfulness in her eyes is obligatory, but her posture tells of how miserable she is. Twisting a curl of her hair and pulling it back in the slick clean-cut bun she's tied, then pushing the fake glasses high up her nose. Yes? I'm ready now. Shiro sighs, looking uncomfortably at the circular coffee desk. Did you have to do all this? Have you happened upon the wrong place? Mina keeps the frown off her lips, but pushes it up into her eyes like a real officer worker. This is 1A Archives. Here we deal with inter-classroom issues regarding 1A. The 1B stop is with Monoma, but he has poor customer service, so not recommended. Her punky pink room is all but an office, but never mind that. Man, just play along. Kaminari scolds before Shiro can even open his mouth to speak, and Mina turns impatiently between the two. Slowly though, like a receptionist that really needs to sort out some word files. Fine. Shiro yields, looking to Mina. It's about Kirishima. Ijira Kirishima. Mina closes her laptop, bridging her hands under her chin and propping her elbows on the table. All right. I have that in my archive. Why? Shiro sighs loudly, rolling his head back in frustration while Kaminari leans in brightly. Yes. About Bakugo, he orders. What a lovely customer. There's been a lot going under the Bakugo tag these days, quite busy sorting it all out. Mina smiles politely. Go on. Kirishima thinks Bakugo hates him. Shiro is the one to divulge when Kaminari had gone through a prolonged word search. The words surprise her, but she ties it down under a practiced gaze. A steady nod, and her fingers reaching to the laptop to pry it open. Friendship tag. Bakugo tag. Kirishima tag. Mina notes, typing away at nothing. Behind the screen are her curious friends. Shiro looks more drained though, so she types even faster, mumbling the rest of the unexisting tags. She pretends to scroll through something when it's really just shirtless, commission photos of male pro heroes, then with a ready nod, pushes her laptop aside once more. 0 results. Interesting, the sticky note, please. Mina smiles as Kaminari reaches under the table to hand it to her. She pulls a blue pen from behind her ear, gazing at the yellow papers as she takes them from Kaminari. Then Shiro practically explodes with the story, Mina rushing to scribble it all down. Kaminari aids from time to time. He even said they were never friends in the first place. Can you believe that? Kirishima and Bakugo not being friends? Absurd. And then we tried to cheer him up, but I'm not sure how long I can take it, because the second Bakugo is even in the same building as him. Kiri doesn't care about us anymore. He's just staring at Bakugo with sad, puppy dog eyes, and Mr. McFrowny doesn't even care. Not for a second. Not for 2. Then Bakugo sat across us during lunch. Kiri was staring the whole time at Bakugo. When he laughed, he wanted Bakugo to laugh, then stopped laughing when he didn't. Then Kirishima got mad at us during training. He said that we wouldn't understand being ditched by somebody. Then proceeded to ditch us for the rest of the scrimmage. But then again, Kami here, so bright and intellectual, told him to forget about Bakugo. Oh come on, Shiro. What? Shiro pauses, as if he had been prepared to continue. Really? Really what? You know I was trying to be helpful and cheer him up. Oh. Right, so, forget about this person that makes you super sad all the time, would help. That okay, I wasn't thinking at the time. Maybe you should try thinking if you're trying to be helpful. Man look. Mina interrupts. Do you need some time to cool off? Shiro flusters. No, sorry. Kaminari nods bashfully. It's just, we're worried and we're not that good at, Shiro pauses, this. And Kirishima's being so dramatic, Kaminari groans. Mina tries not to take offense. Shiro disagrees, but I mean, I get him at the same time. Yeah, Kaminari rests his head on his hand, but it's still so annoying. Hard not to be annoyed when he went off like that. Shiro eyes his lap with stifled frustration. He's like a hurt puppy, Mina comments. Exactly. Kaminari sighs, eyes bright as if he just found his soulmate. But Mina knows why. Bakugo was a life source to Kirishima. The second Kirishima had laid his eyes on Bakugo, he became a cartoon character, in the sense that he wanted to prove he could make friends with everybody. And what better way to do that than with the most unsociable person available? Honestly, Mina had extremely low hopes of that happening. Yet it somehow did. With enough will and muscle and compliments, Kirishima had snuck into Bakugo's head. And Kirishima prided himself on being the person able to communicate with that boy. But then again, Kirishima still wanted friends, and Bakugo was that. Sure, there are other reasons for their closeness, but one of them was visible to everybody. Except Bakugo and Kirishima. Any other reasons were between the two though. So naturally, Kirishima adores Bakugo, flaunting their closeness any way he can. Suddenly Mina wonders if that invalidates their friendship, but then again, those two don't really know the meaning of friendship. Kirishima's sweet, but a lot of the things he does with friends. He has a lot of friends, yes, but how much of that matters to him? And how much of it is just to avoid the loneliness of last year? And if his first friend of this year left, he probably thinks he's doomed to die alone now. Sighing, Mina grips her pillow harshly, sad for Kirishima. He had 0 friends before you, finally getting the hang of being himself just to have his first Udata friend shut off the little communication they shared. Mina considers, he'll get over it, the quirk effect is temporary. I think the best case right now, she worries her lip, is to give them both space. Siro and Kaminari look at her as if she spoke a different language. Yet it's Kaminari's outrage that's voiced first. Funny joke, Ishido. His smile is wide but humorless. Mina shrugs, slightly pricked. Do you have any better ideas? Talking to him? Like, being a friend while Bakugu's on his funny little power trip. Siro swerves away from the table as if it was the most revolting thing to ever come into existence. Do you want him to hate you? Mina lifts her brows exaggeratedly high. I've been with Kirishima since middle school. You don't bother him when he's sad or he gets mad. Would you like to see the file on that? I have records. She has not a single file in her laptop, but it makes for a witty rebuttal. Thankfully, they don't ask to see it. Instead, Siro frowns and Kaminari creases his brows in thought. Look, we came to you for advice on how to deal with Kirishima, Kaminari says bluntly. Yeah. And I'm giving it to you. Mina smiles broadly. Just as humorlessly as Kaminari's previous smile, but it chokes out a quiet snicker from Siro. Which is just as you guessed it, a joyless thing that only further grates against Mina's nerves, grinding out a tension she's never felt around these two. Thanks for the advice. Siro hastily gets up, eyeing Kaminari to follow. He half-heartedly does so, not looking at Mina, and she knows everything she said didn't get to their heads. Maybe she should have presented it differently. But I don't think we can just leave him alone, Siro finishes. I'm seriously warning you. Mina lids her eyes, voice drooping. Her voice drooped too low and it fell flat. I mean, we just want to help him, Kaminari explains. You don't have to say anything to him if you don't want to. There's something sharp and judgy in his eyes. Finally Mina loses it. Okay, snaps Mina, unraveling her crisscross legs, her nest of pillows flying away as she speedily unfolds to a stand. Calming herself down, please don't talk to him right now. Give him some space. Siro startles, but returns a disapproving frown just when Mina thought he'd see reason. Kaminari's jaw clenches, but he relaxes and his gaze drops to the ground. Not ashamed, just thinking. She forces herself to smile when her lips ache to frown. Why would you come to me if you're just going to ignore what I said? Her smile ghosts her face, barely hanging in her voice by her last words. 'Cause I thought you'd agree with us. Siro hesitates, and confront him too. I will. Just not now, let him sleep it off. And it's a Friday, can't it wait till tomorrow? There's a disquieting quiet in response to her voice. Siro's uncertain face says he's still picking his words even though the moment has flown by. But Kaminari slowly pipes in, not looking at her but at the scattered pillows. Thanks, Ishido. Ijiru's gripping his phone above him, eyeing the definition of hate under such scrutiny his eyes ache. He remembers to blink and promptly does so. He swipes through synonyms, hoping to get a better grasp of the word. He rolls his head on his pillow, troubled. Afterwards, he looks up anger. The definition of anger is an overwhelming sense of annoyance or displeasure. The first synonym is rage, he taps it. Then below are more synonymous words. Wrath is the first synonym in line for rage, so he clicks it, then wrath begots outrage begots lividity, next ire, then temper. Deep inside, Ijiru expects the word hate to pop up each time in the row of synonyms, but he's disproved every tap. There's a happy bloom in Ijiru's chest each time he can press something that's not the word hate. He had somehow convinced himself hate and anger were the same. Yet a part of him feels annoyed at the lack, a part of him that's still bitter with the current Bakugu. As if upset he can't control his feelings. As if hoping Bakugu was that hateful. But Ijiru realizes how pointless all of this is as moments pass, his legs beneath messy sheets. I'm cycling through the same words to prove what? It's not like Bakugu's talking to me anyways. What am I proving? Why won't he just talk to me? Through a torrent of displeasing thoughts, there's one that takes the cake. What if the emotion Bakugo feels doesn't have a word? Aijuru sits up, sliding his back against the bed frame behind. If Aijuru can't tell what Bakugo's feeling because he can't word it, then what? Well, all he needs is to talk it over with Bakugo. So what if the emotion Bakugo feels is simply a description? That's fine too. There's nothing that can't be described, even calling something indescribable is description enough. The displeasure melts away into gradual triumph. Except not really. Maybe he was glad for a second or two, but the thing with having a working brain is knowing Bakugo never tells anybody anything, even Aijuru. He bangs his head against the solid bed frame, shifting in the now itchy sheets to get out of them. There he curls tightly in on himself and thinks, resisting a hammering urge of sadness. Aijuru wants to know what Bakugo's feeling. How else can he be his friend? Bakugo's alone in his dorm beside, and Aijuru can't hear a single peep from that room. The only sign he's there was the click of the door when he entered. Aijuru frowns, considering maybe he wasn't Bakugo's friend in the first place. Back to square one. Pulling up his phone, a new journey blotting previous thought, he types up in his search engine. The results are conclusive, ignoring the cheesier ones. A friendly feeling or attitude, kindness or help given to someone. Aijuru, never in a million years, did he think he'd be scrunched up like a turtle by the head of his bed Googling the meaning of friendship. He sighs miserably, then moves to purge his search history of this. It swipes away forever, as if he never moved his fingers to rush it in. It's a clean feeling, except he's already digested the fact he did that, leaving Aijuru's stomach bundled up like tangled wire. Just as he closes his phone off for good this time, resigning underneath the sheets of his bed, knock. His dorm door. Aijuru doesn't want to answer it, but he's not upset enough to ignore it. If it's Bakugo on the other end, Aijuru might puke on the spot. With that risk considered, he should just stay. But he slips from the bed, the blanket sinking to his moving feet. He readies himself, approaching the dorm door. By the time the knock repeats, Aijuru's tracing the door's design reluctantly, feeling the vibrations of their beat on his finger pad. The muffled voice of somebody on the other side. Funny. Usually sound doesn't phase through the heavy-set doors. Something that's also funny, the walls of the dorms, in great contrast, are so thin you could have a conversation with your dorm mates in different rooms. But back to the doors. Doors so thick that whoever it was probably shouting at the top of their lungs in the dorm hall. And there's only one person that shouts so loud a heavy-set door would have trouble keeping their voice away. Despite Aijuru's initial nausea, he swears he's never opened a door so fast. Hey, what he sees on the other side is like a slap to the face, even more puke-worthy than if it was Bakugo. The surprising sight of Kaminari and Siro resolve hardening their faces, and Aijuru feels bad for being upset. It's too late to cover up now, it had already shown on his face. He attempts a polite smile, then remembers the events of training. Now they'll ditch me too. Hey bro, Siro says calmly, Aijuru's skin is on fire. You okay? Kaminari asks. Aijuru's. His head, cautiously looking at the two of them. There's something off about them, he can't guess at what it is, but they definitely spoke before arriving here. Dragging his hand down his face, I guess. Okay, Siro scratches his hair, want to play games? Not really, Aijuru shrugs. Why did you come here? That came out more harsh than expected, as if he didn't want them here. But to be fair, Aijuru didn't know whether he wanted them here or not, but he would have greatly preferred if it was Bakugo in their places. Weird, he really didn't want Bakugo before. Would it be the other way around if Bakugo was in their places? To apologize, Kaminari admits, it was wrong of me to word it like that. I know you're upset and I was kind of minimizing you. Dude, it's fine. Aijuru flusters, an embarrassed laugh chills his throat. I've already gotten over it and it's fine. Okay, just. Kaminari looks at Siro, Siro looks at Kaminari. They're soon bobbing their heads wildly, turning and shaking. Aijuru can't tell what they're motioning to each other to do. Just give Bakugo some space. There's something painful on both their faces as if they just admitted something clashy. Aijuru doesn't like the exclusion, and he doesn't want to just avoid Bakugo either. He swallows down his anxiousness with a tepid nod. It's so funny how Aijuru clearly remembers wanting to be there for Bakugo at the start. Too nearsighted, Idru somehow believed all he would be dealing with was anger. He believed that would be the ultimate test of friendship, Bakugo 10 times more nasty but Idru doing everything to help despite that. Siro says something mildly comforting, everybody thinks it's anger and whatnot, but I just think it's ego. He'll get over it if you leave him alone. You know Bakugo. He has a happy grin on his face. Leave him, Idru thinks, hating the way the words taste in his mouth, but he soon looks up to them, searching their faces, and all he sees is cool reassurance. Easing, you wanted to play games before? Let's play games. Does the trick. And Kaminari yanks him out the threshold before he can reconsider, slipping his arm to a coil around Kirishima's neck, hand draping on his chest. Finally. Fridays shouldn't be wasted like this. Machim. Can you believe it? Siro has that famous watermelon grin of his, sidling up to Kirishima. Now he's made his choice. Believe what? Kaminari bought a game that doesn't have dateable female NPCs. Whoa, is this really Kaminari? Idru huffs joyfully. Kaminari tightens his hold momentarily, sneaking him a glad smile. It wasn't a bad choice, that smile makes sure of it. I've gotten over fake girls. Kaminari declares. Now he's into social media cosplay of them. Siro. Stop it. Haha. 5 minutes? Idru groans, shoving his face against the pillow. The smell of crisp butter is a violent rally. He slugs away from it, but the scent follows. There's something cotton and malodorous poking his face. Weight against his back too. Good morning, the voice is not his mother's. Or his other mother's. Or his dad's. Idru jolts awake, eyes snapping open, and his mind spins. A giggle nearby, and a flurry of blooming lights. When his eyes clear, there's Ida staring over him, hand gripping the remote. Did we leave the TV running? And is that a sock? It's barely on Kaminari's foot but it's all up in Idru's face. Idru tries to get up, but Siro stirs from above, mumbling unwillingly and moving in a way that only further entraps him. Idru can barely remember how they started watching movies, or the name of the movies they watched. The plot was something about a guy and a girl? Idru only remembers the steamy bits right now, the scenes with their swaying bodies, suggestive shuffles, a cheeky giggle, and the typical cut to them sleeping alongside each other. It's a good thing the common room was empty at night, but the TV isn't on Hulu anymore. Or Netflix. Or whatever streaming service they were using, it's completely off now. His head struggles to piece everything together, but in this situation, good morning. You slept well? Ida asks. Idru knows it's well-meaning. Yay. Idru smiles. Great, I slept well. You should get ready for today. And next time don't leave the television running. Then Ida drops the remote on the glossy TV stand, tossing a lax smile as he threads through the couches towards the kitchen. Idru nods, cheeks catching on fire as his brain begins to untangle itself. Dragging his hand over his head, Idru truly recognizes he has a horrible case of bedhead. The gel lost hold overnight, and his hair's a frizzy mess of red locks, disordered pieces enjoying the idea of gravity for once, while some tufts spire up defiantly. He barely has time to sigh or think before Kaminari launches his foot in his face. Idru gapes, shuts his mouth, but gets a mouthful of loose sock, which he promptly spits out, and wonders how somebody can sleep kick another person. When Idru looks up, he half expects a mischievous grin on Kaminari's face and him staring back, but he's dead asleep. Morning. Jeez. Idru had forgotten about Siro, awkwardly shifting around for space now. Enough space that Idru's body sleds off the couch. Starting with his head, then torso, right leg, then he thumps, nearly banging into the table. When he opens his eyes, Siro's looking straight down at him, the rest of his body perched on the couch's ledge. Morning, Siro grins. You okay? I'm fine. Idru finds his vision crossed with red blurs, strands of hair intensely close to his eyes. He doesn't pull it away, even though it looks like a crack in his view. Good and man, that hair. Siro's eyes light up, mouth twisting delightedly. As if an evil thought had found solace somewhere in Siro's morning mind, And the last thing Idru wants to do is be a victim of another mishap so early in the morning. You look like a lion. Idru blinks, squinting, then laughs trying to imagine it. A lion's mane. It's too early to be figuring out Ciro's teases and taunts. A lion? Yep. He smirks. And are you gonna lie there like a puppet or get up? Idru's awake enough to smell, and God, Ciro's morning breath bombs. Idru's smile cracks under the radiation of unbrushed teeth. Yeah, I'm gonna brush and bathe. Did he put too much emphasis on the word brush? Ciro laughs, burning the inside of Idru's nose. Great, you need it. Smells like BO in here. His eyes pinpoint sharply on Idru's pits, then he jerks away from the couch's ledge and sits up, unchaining Idru from the powerful wind of no toothpaste, whilst liberating himself from Idru's own smell, which becomes embarrassingly clear to him afterwards. Hey Baku bro, what you up to? A week ago. What's popping? Oh, it looks like I wrote, what's pooping? I was scared I did. Bakubru? For days. Oh hi, so this is crazy but I need help. You know I can see that you are seeing my messages. What you doing? 3 days. Good morning, laughing face wanna talk? Idru nearly drops his phone in shock when Ashido lunges on his back, wrapping her arms affectionately around his neck. He smiles, recognizing the pink skin in an instant. When he looks back, they meet eyes. Her hair's a pretty mess of silk pink and bedhead. Ashido tilts her head, eyes glinting just the right way, then she giggles. Ashido tightens her grip startlingly, then lets go. Hands dropping to his side, in a back hug. So, you're okay? Now. Idru shrugs. I was just, yeah. He sighs, thinking to himself, Ashido swaying restlessly behind for him to talk. I was thinking something very dumb. He admits with a laugh. Ashido's smile blows up to a grin. Sometimes I think all you have in that head of yours is hair. Ashido lets loose a loud laugh. Hey! Idru pulls his hand up comfortably, the one holding his phone, keeping it there before he realizes Ashido's staring at the glowing screen. Her eyes are done deducing the texts by the time Idru snatches it out of her view. She PPS her head, perching her chin on his shoulder sharply, as if she was trying to stab him with the end of her face. Idru tucks the phone into his pocket. He responds to Ashido's glare with a tiny laugh. Ciro told me you would leave Bakugo alone. Ashido says. Idru blinks, laughing nervously again. I didn't say that. Idru leans against the kitchen counter coolly, placing his gaze on the sink instead. I still want to talk to him. He's not been responding to your texts, Ashido says, which Idru knew very well already. I don't think he wants to talk to you. Her words are soft, but it's like tying a cotton napkin on a toothed dagger. At least I've been checking in on him, like a friend. Idru glares down at her, and he always sees my texts anyways, so it's fine. Idru didn't tie a napkin on his dagger, and it wasn't a very blunt jab either. Ashido frowns, her arms loosening, and, I wasn't saying you couldn't check in. Right, sorry. Yeah. Ashido pulls away, walking off in front of him to the cupboards. She shuffled through the crockery, shuffling for 2 glass cups and, want water? Sure. K. This time, Idru turns his phone off, running a hand through his hair, which was more orderly. Though he didn't have time to gel it, so it hung down impotently, like something trying to evade detection, but the rare look always won over eyes. Except Ashido, who was dwelling strongly on the glasses, directing her focus away from Idru with her thinking face. Sorry. He says quietly again, awkward to move beside her. It's not like Ashido wanted to upset him. For what? Ashido swivels on her heel, back to Idru. Even more guilt, until he hears the sound of tap water streaming into the glass. She wanted to fill it up. It wasn't any of my business. Shouldn't have asked. Suddenly she's smiling sheepishly, head turned to see him. Plus, it's cool you're checking up on him despite it. I mean, he needs it. I want to be there for him, Idru admits. You're so dedicated. Ashido laughs, dropping the full glass beside the sink, wrapping it in her hand and holding it out to Idru. Water drops glistening on the clear cup, the cool chill on his palm as he takes it. Thanks, Aijiro puts the glass to his lips, cheeks firing. Ashido couldn't be teasing him? He can see her tilting her head curiously, eyeing him like a math sheet she just couldn't translate even as he drank from the glass. Then her eyes went soft, a sugar-loaded smile on her face, and her eyes sparked. And yeah, sort of. It's sweet. You're a great friend. Ashido huffs. Now if only Bakugo could get that. The addition upsets Aijiro, but barely. The rest of him, surprisingly, doesn't mind. He finds himself laughing, flustered by her compliments. Thanks. For what? Ashido picks her glass, downing half of it in seconds. Aijiro considers, then smiles, shrugging. But he couldn't put it into words. Maybe her company, but Ashido was always company. Maybe he's simply thankful because Ashido is Ashido. Grudgeless and kind. You look at me if I'm a god, Ashido deadpants, but a wide smile breaks through her face. She finishes off the last of the water. Hey Kirishima-kun? Izuku approaches him, resting on the couch. He looks better than he did this morning, his hair neater, and a cleaner countenance. The couch still smells like butter though, not the point. Do you know where Kaken is? Huh. Kirishima tilts his head, gazing at Izuku as if he said something out of the blue. Maybe he did. He's not in his dorm? No, I just checked. Izuku contemplates whether he should sit down on the butter-drowned couch or not. He decides it's not worth it, instead lifting his gaze to watch Kirishima's reaction. For a moment he looks like he might stand up, but he shrugs resignedly. I don't know where he is. Strange. There's nothing specific enough in his voice to be discerned, almost like he doesn't care. Izuku furrows his brows. Focusing on the post-movie sesh carpet below. A fuzz of popcorn between a tendril ahead. This place needs to be cleaned soon. Oh, I just guessed. Sorry man, Bakugo's just. Kirishima pauses, shrugs, and returns to the TV. Just what? Just not talking at all. To like anyone. Anyone. This makes things more difficult. Yeah, I'm not surprised he just vanished. Oh. He'll be. Izuku lets the question drift off to air, deciding it sounded embarrassingly clingy, but Kirishima glances at him. He'll be back, yeah, Kirishima assures, and turns back to the fitness channel he's on. Why? Just wondering, Izuku shrugs, looking at the wall behind, and I wanted to talk to him. For a moment, Kirishima considers him. But the fitness tips snag his attention. Alright, that's cool. Yeah, thanks. Izuku turns his head, staring off to the kitchen. The common room is long and the halls are right beside the main entrance. 4 tables seating 4 seats just before the kitchen, the main door further ahead. And that main door? It opens, Kaken strutting right inside, and All Might at the door. They talk for a moment, their words unheard over the exercise tips streaming from the TV. By the time the volume's set low, their conversation is over, and Kaken storming seethingly down the hall beside. When Izuku turns his head back to Kirishima, they're staring right at each other. Izuku can practically see the question mark floating above his head. Weird. Kirishima says with a voice light enough he sounds happy. He turns back to the television, turning the volume up in a haste manner that betrays his light-hearted tone. His shoulders high, and he stares at the TV as if he wants his eyes to laser through it. Is the word Kaken taboo as well? Izuku had anticipated this. This quirk needs to wear off soon. It would be bad if it did too late and Kaken and Kirishima were no longer on speaking terms. The idea of them being awkward is absurd. Just when Izuku had finally decided he didn't really like how fast Kirishima had befriended Kaken, they needed to be united. This isn't like you, Komori says, half a second after Nito opens the door. Her new persona gone in a flash, replaced with a criticizing look. This isn't like you at all. What you been doing all day anyways? What? Nito asks, head searching for whatever Komori was trying to highlight. She sighs as if it was obvious. Bakugo. Oh, him. Nito blinks, grasping at the door tightly. Komori steps in, seeing his eagerness to slam it. What about him? Don't play dumb. Fine. That beast's not my objective anymore. I'm focusing on easier prey. Komori snorts, prey? But before Nito can even reply just as happily, Her foot's between Nito's feet, and she's leaning close to him, a cold voice snapping out. I thought we had a deal. What deal? Even without seeing her eyes, cloaked behind pale brown locks, Nito can already hear her answer by feeling her gaze. Don't play dumb. Am I the only person who has to endure such disrespect from you? Komori muses, maybe, and she takes another step in, her hands soon below Nito's, holding the door as well. She closes it when she enters, and Nito's hand involuntarily drops off, resting to his side. I'm really feeling the love. By retaining his jackass smile, Nito hides how exciting it is to have a girl in his dorm, even when they both know that's all but the intention of this visit. And Komori doesn't feel like a girl right now. In fact, she'd be a lot scarier if she were taller, but she's nearly a foot shorter, but there's rarely a time she isn't cute. Komori invites herself in with a few more steps, Nito moving away gently. And she gazes around his room before, I really shouldn't be here, but I kind of need your help. And you know that. If it's about Bakugo, then no. With all those rumors, I'm inclined to give him space. Tittering, Komori slides enough bangs behind her ear that a whole eye is visible. An eye as clear as ice, and slightly colder. You sure? I'm an a-hole, not a madman. Her visible eye softens, the ice melting a little, but her lip makes not a single movement. And Komori's still up in Nito's face, even though his point is clear. Nothing would make him budge on this matter, not even a bulldozer. Or so Nito thought. I know you have a thing for Tsudanori. What? You do an awful job at hiding it, Komori snorts, and an even worse job at acting on it. I have no idea what you're talking about. If Nito was any less obvious, he might have tapped his lips with a napkin while averting his eyes. Sure. Komori finally leans onto the door, her head tilted at Nito and a broad grin on her face, as if she's just found the perfect path to a perfect checkmate. Still your choice, but you might want to hear this. When I told Tsudanori the rumor, you were there. Nito waits for her to continue, but after a second of staring at her, he knows she wants a response. Allegedly. Great. Well, Tsudanori's been obsessed about it. She scares herself to death whenever we have PE, and the only reason she didn't fake being sick on Friday when PE rolled around was because Bakugo left that day. She's that scared of Bakugo? Yeah. And she managed to hear more of that stupid rumor around the school. Komori laughs bitterly. She's convinced Bakugo's going to kill someone, and she literally told me she doesn't want it to be her. Nito's words come out carefully, and what does that have to do with? If you prove Bakugo's not that angry or annoy him enough he almost kills you, Komori's eye lights up so quickly Nito wonders if it might combust. She'll have nothing to be afraid of. And you like her, don't you? You don't want to see her so scared. All considering, this feels almost too good to be true. Annoy the worst person in class 1, then get a crush to adore you. This has to be a type of scam. With Komori's grin as wide as the Cheshire Cat's, Minoma has to ask, and why won't you do it? Komori thinks, and all of a sudden she's the careful one, I don't want to make enemies with anyone. Even Bakugo. But you. The combustion is nearing as she sheds all precautions. You're already enemies with about everybody in 1A. And I know making Tsudanori happy would just be a bonus to you. Look, while I despise Bakugo wit, I'd even pair you and Tsu up. Nito's voice trembles with a shock of laughter. What? How far would you be willing to go? Komori's words are empowered by so much confidence Nito can't remember whether he's looking up or down to see her. Well, how much do you like her? Class 1A and Class 1B are drastically different, except not really. Sure, Class 1B is far more academic, but they lag behind in PE because of their lack of experience. In that case, 1A is the opposite, of course. But they're not completely different. Because where 1A has Koji, 1B has Pony. Where 1B has Itsuka, 1A has Momo. Where 1A has Aidru, 1B has Tetsu. If 1A was less troublesome, perhaps they'd be two tightly knit classes. Even with some certain students. So when 1A has Katsuki, it should make sense that 1B has Nito. The only difference there is that somebody is around to keep Nito in check. But that's never stopped him. Because when 1A has Mina, 1B has Kinoko. Hey Kendo-san. Kinoko skips after the busy class president, and Kendo sends her a warm smile. Her single ponytail bobbing gleefully with every single step she takes, her hands holding a stack of files. Do you need help with that? When Kendo looks at Kinoko, she feels as if she's been seen right through. Like all her intentions are clear for the whole world to see, but luckily it doesn't take much for Kendo to smile. Komori-san, thank you, but it's fine. Sensitive info in here. Like answer keys? I think. Kendo shrugs. Vlad-sensei just told me not to look in them or else I'd be expelled, so probably. Kinoko laughs. How harsh. What's third PRD again? Third PRD is English. Ah, I'm so bad at English. Not really, Kendo flashes a shiny smile. You're better than me. That's just because Tsudanori sits beside me. I'm no good when present Mike makes us sit apart, Kinoko explains. Wow, well, you and Tsudanori really are made for each other. Kinoko can't help but laugh at that, but Kendo's face turns serious. Really? She's only comfortable around you. You're the only person she trusts other than Fukudashi-san. Ah, you're making me red. But it's true, Tsudanori trusts you. A lot. I'm glad you're making her feel welcome, Kendo shakes her head. I can't imagine being in a place like you, still learning a language without having someone like you around. The words pinch her as much as they make her blossom. While memories of Tsudanori's laughs and smiles should pop up, Kinoko inexplicably thinks of Monoma instead. Which of course comes with the promise of last night. Forcing down a sour feeling, she stares back at Kendo wonderingly. Maybe she did see right through her. Yeah, she does. And here's my stop. Kendo's right outside Nizu's office, and Kinoko has been alongside her the whole time. And Kendo's staring at the door, as if trying to figure out how to open it with her hands full of files. Here, Kinoko volunteers, hopping to the door, hand reaching out to the handle just as it cranks open. She has a mini heart attack as she steps back, meeting with dicing red eyes and staring. Sorry. Bakuga grumbles back, then marches off without warning, leaving the door swung open. Probably going to run into Monoma on his way back. The moment he's out of earshot, Kinoko releases a breath, spinning back to Kendo. Thanks, Komori-san, Kendo says, readjusting her hands for the files, promptly entering the principal's office. Kinoko peeks in, even though it's not really her business, and it's quite a boring interaction as well. Kendo comes back after chatting about his tea and giving him the stack of files, which were apparently too private to be emailed. We should head back before we're late, Kinoko suggests. Right, I need to check up on Monoma before he gets himself in trouble, Kendo says. No, yells Kinoko, which causes Kendo to give her a funny look. Nervously, she clamps a hand around Kendo's arm, as if to hold her back, just to realize how weird it is. Don't you focus on him too much? Itchem? Kinoko is already remorseful for the words she knows she's about to say. You don't spend time on anybody else. I'm trying to talk to you but you're still walking off to Monoma. It's almost like you like him. The last part was unintentional, and soon, Kendo's bright red. No. Of course not, she w's her head around. I hadn't realized. Do I really fixate on him like that? I hadn't known. It's fine, I just plan to make this day your break from Monoma. And of course Kinoko blurts out her plan, but it's hidden in so much honesty, even somebody as clever as Kendo gets tricked by it. I think I need that. Kendo's smile is so sweet it makes Kinoko feel horrible. She tries to remember she's doing this for Tsudanori, and it's a comforting thought. Comforting enough she wipes the shameful look off her face before it even starts. You definitely do. To think, just a few days ago, Kirishima had the biggest sulk on his face, and Kaken had been so incredibly distant. But all it took was a weekend, and they've switched places. Typically Izuku would rather just watch, silently wondering if it was only him and Kirishima who knows Bakugo isn't angry. But now he has to intervene. To be fair, Kirishima never told Izuku personally what he thought on Kaken's recent behavior, but he never needed to. It was too easy to discover everything he felt this morning, because Kirishima would have never ditched Kaken if he thought he was just angry. Kirishima was the type to tar himself to the ground beside a rabid Kaken if he wanted to. Never mind if Kaken would feast on his arms and lick his bloody bones clean, Kirishima would have still stayed beside. No matter what impressive feats of rage would be threatened. It was obvious, to anybody who stared long enough, Kirishima didn't think Kaken was angry. He thought Kaken hated him. And there are only two ways Izuku's planned out Kirishima's most likely reactions. Reaction A is waiting till this blows over and end up becoming friends again. And B is never forgiving him, and eventually forcing himself to hate Kaken too. Izuku can't tell which one he loves more. This situation could be worth taking advantage of, and his thoughts traverse dark, muddled areas and plans. But Izuku would never go through with any of them. It's simply unheroic. And being unheroic isn't in his blood. Yet despite that, unheroic thoughts vie for attention, until something reins him out of the thought pit he trapped himself in. And it's a nasty voice hailing Kaken, who must have returned from wherever Aizawa angrily led him to before break. He didn't hear any of the words except the singular word Bakugu, since Izuku hadn't been paying that much attention, but it's the nastiness that WHPS him right out of his thoughts. This is bad. This is really bad. The conversations close to the door stop, so they must have heard whatever Monoma had said. Only a voice that nasty could belong to Monoma. With more ease than Izuku actually has, he strolls to the door as if he's never had a single immoral thought. Really, Izuku could leave the door open, let Kaken react in a fit of mad rage or however he does. It wouldn't matter, because Kirishima could eat up even the kindest show Kaken would be capable of, and still label it as hate. And it wouldn't really be Izuku's fault, but he's not like that. Instead, reaching for the handle, he closes it. Monoma and Kaken can fight out whatever problems they have, away from Kirishima's attentive eyes. And even now, he can feel Kirishima's stare boring into his neck. Many stares actually. Seems like a lot of people wanted to see Kaken pop. But he wouldn't pop. Why is Izuku the only person who seems to know this? It happens again at the cafeteria. It seemed like a good decision to sit across Kaken, so of course Izuku had. Quietly eating his food, and sometimes peeking to watch Kaken pick at his homemade cubes of fish sprinkled over his rice. They smelled nice, and Izuku was almost thinking about asking for one when that nasty voice came back again. Despite Kirishima's sudden opposition to Kaken, he hadn't seemed to want to avoid him completely. Or maybe their seating was the doing of Shiro and Kaminari, although Izuku doubts it, but they're close enough to hear everything. And this time, Izuku pays attention to the nasty voice. My, if it isn't the Class 1A beast. But Monoma pauses, inspecting him. Hey, what's that on your lunch? I didn't see that on the school menu. I made it myself, Kaken replies. And Monoma and Kaken are glaring at one another with enough grudges to make a puppy hide. But it ends with Monoma's arm speeding out so fast Izuku sees it as a snapping blur. But that doesn't stop Kaken. So it's cut with a slam, a burst, the chemical twang of nitroglycerin and Monoma yelping, fingers straining to wherever directions underneath Kaken's clasp. Don't touch my food, fuckhead. Let go of me. You psycho. Monoma whines, pulling his arm to no avail. His wrist is crunched in Kaken's ungiving hand. But after a few seconds, he lets go, turning back to his food as if nothing was out of the ordinary, and Monoma snatches his hand back, gripping his wrist as if it had been burned. And maybe it had. Izuku can't tell though, because soon Monoma is storming away, grumbling about how this isn't the last of me. Casting his eyes to the end of the table, to find Kirishima. Too busy joking with Kaminari to have seen it. Izuku sags his high shoulders, breathing. Sixth PRD is P. And Kaken is back in the scene. Much to Izuku's chagrin, because this exercise feels as though the world wanted to work against him. It's just 4 duos facing off each other over 10 games, nothing out of the ordinary. But training at UDA is never simply ordinary. It's not fire in the set, or gasoline-doused floors or anything, which Izuku would have preferred to this. It's the fact the duos will consist of one 1A student and one 1B student. Shinso sits out and solo trains, and he doesn't look like he has any problems doing so. No wonder, since he doesn't trespass the wildfire that is 1B and 1A relations. Kaken and Monoma shouldn't get paired. Izuku silently prays to his lucky stars it doesn't happen. And as Aizawa calls out the names, Izuku keeps on counting everybody. Neither Kaken or Monoma has been called yet, and the list keeps running. Like some type of torture. Fukidashi and Hagakure. Izuku doesn't even think about how effective that pairing might be. He's so transfixed on the idea of Monoma and Kaken being paired together. The idea of his earlier efforts going to waste dance around his head like a melody from a haunted jukebox. Kodai and Tsuyu. The names are running thin, and still, there's not a word of Kaken and Monoma. Kaken being called must have breezed past Izuku. There are 40 people to be called, it wouldn't be surprising if Izuku simply hadn't heard. Riding on that single hope, as the names begin to end, Aizawa's eyes speed off the sheet with ease. Komori and Midoriya, Awaze and Ida, and Aizawa finally pries his eyes off the paper, and Izuku calculates his gaze. Just seeing how it lands on Kaken makes his heart drop. Just as Aizawa turns away to stare at Vlad beside him, looking away innocently. Aizawa almost scowls, but he returns to the paper. Bakugu and Kendo, Monoma and Tetsu. That's it, find your partner. Anticipation flies from Izuku's lungs, making space for relief. Kendo's more than perfect, and she's exactly the type that Kaken would behave around. Maybe the world is working in Izuku's favor, he just has to let that happen. Closing his eyes, just to open them again at the chirp of a voice. Hi. You're Midoriya, right? She's the one with the mushroom quirk. Izuku remembers her, smiling. Yeah, and Kurokiri, right? Komori, she corrects. Oh, sorry. It's no biggie, Komori says. I wonder who we're going against. I hope we're in the last round because it'd be a ton easier to figure that out. What? Don't like a good surprise? It'd just even our chances, Izuku says, and begins to put his head to work. Retiring his eyes from glancing over at Kaken so often, and letting his worry be watered down by the excitement of this upcoming match. Hey, I've already got a plan in mind. Free from Deku's obsessive tag-along behavior for once, that was one good thing Katsuki had been looking forward to. And the redhead of Class 1B actually wasn't so terrible, she came up with a good enough plan. The plan being to be the most violent force on the field. Blasting people straight into sleep would be Katsuki's responsibility, and Handy would be shaking them till they hurtle out their guts. They could have come up with something better, but Katsuki wasn't really volunteering anything, and knocking people out is all he feels like doing anyways. Winning somehow wasn't on his mind either, but that lack was made up by Handy, who wouldn't stop blabbering about how their goal is to win and flooding Katsuki's head with these mini pep talks that nobody really needs, but here they are. It almost reminds Katsuki of Shitty. Moving on. If we go against Yayarosa-san, says Handy randomly, leave her to me. Katsuki thinks on that, then decides he doesn't really want to go against whatever stupid ideas Yayarosa gives Bardich to this time. He nods, and that should be the end of that, but something's still bothering him. Handy smiles in gratitude, but that smile freezes at Katsuki's words. On the condition I go against the fuckhead. Handy turns out to be very sharp, because she knows who instantly, her voice near a whisper, Monoma's been looking for a fight, you know. Katsuki eyes her down. But it's no problem, Handy soon agrees. Hand his butt to him, yeah? Like I'd do less. Katsuki hesitates but spits his own out. You get ponytail. Handy smiles broadly, a laugh woven somewhere, like I'd do less. This will be a low collateral set. Beside Aizawa stands glossy, car-sized walls meshed in with the drywall surrounding. Prioritize low amounts of damage. I mean it. The lined-up duos nod unitedly. Nervous titters as they swivel their heads around to check each other, just to face the door again. Finally, Ida raises his hand in question. Excuse me. Ida. I didn't call on you. Aizawa snaps. Wait. A beat of silence. And Ida's arm is still irked when the huge walls begin to hover off the ground. Gasps ring out as the set behind reveals itself. The walls sync up, and the mysterious set beyond mystifies everybody. For the wrong reasons. It's nothing but darkness stretching out forever, just a deeper version of the huge walls. Suddenly, everybody has something to murmur, pulling to their friends, who know as much as they do, to ask questions. Todinori squirms even when she's nowhere close to the set, but just seeing it broils her insides. They couldn't be fighting in pitch dark, it would be horrible. Aizawa turns his head around, like a cruel hunter fishing out for weak game. A sadistic grin tearing across his face the same moment All Might jumps out of nowhere, holding a one-button pad in his hand. "Looky what we have here, kids." Then he taps it. Everybody pauses, wrenching their heads to the set once more. Then slowly eyeing the button, slow murmurs begin. Aizawa stares at All Might with a Cheshire grin, who's tapping helplessly at the easy control. "Come on, technology isn't that. Told you it wasn't a smart idea." Aizawa grins impossibly wider. "Please stop," All Might pleads. Nobody can tell if that's to Aizawa or the simple piece of tech in his hands. So, Kaminari smiles. "We're not training today?" Already yanking his costume's jacket off. That's a shame. It starts with green bulbs torching up. Then a golden beam. A trail of sparkling dots of red glowing in perpetual night, radiant, green lamps hanging from the huge entrance. Streams of light flowing down plastic tentacles deep in the set and wrapping around structures like a Christmas present. Finally, All Might sighs, turning around to marvel at the wondrous set. Why did it take so long? The handsome girl tends to code anticipation into her gadgets. Ida explains, barely hiding his shock. "I didn't call on you," scolds Aizawa. "It's fine," All Might says, "but wasn't that too long?" Ida shrugs. He's gone through a lot worse at the hands of Hatsum, and even though he talks to the one and only All Might, his eyes remain on the sparkling set. Unsure how to take his gaze off. All the way across the training room, "You jinxed it." Shiro complains, "You and your big fat mouth, Kaminari." Kaminari pulls his jacket back on, laughing. "Yeah, I meant to do that. Just can't wait for 3 straight PRDS of training." Shiro groans. He's only upset because he's on the team going up first. Lucky for Shiro, Kaminari's joy will be stolen soon, because if he takes longer than a short glance up, he might understand Shiro's worry. Because beyond the entrance, he'd find that the set was a perfect replica of an amusement park. The sparkliest one to ever exist, that is. There's an octopus ride. A carousel off to the side, the twirliest ride ever, something that's meant to spin upside down, and a spiraling tunnel that cascades into darkness. "Oh man," Kaminari finds himself saying, just as Shiro knew he would. "There's actual metal on this set. Not plastic imitating it. That's one thing that freaks everyone out." "No kidding," Kirishima agrees from behind. Stepping forward, but never ripping his gaze from the set. "You're gonna enjoy the first round, buddy?" Kaminari looks over to Shiro, grinning. Shiro's face scrunches. "Gonna love it." The lights were stellar, stark against the night the amusement park was trapped in. Different exclamations lost in a communal chant of "oh." Then there was the outburst from the other crowd. "What's going on? There's no way we're entering this thing. I'm not stepping into that death trap." This was definitely the type of set third years use, because it's the type of set things could go wrong in. Where the spindly metal trails could skewer you, where the crates could collapse on your spine, where every single thing could be weaponized or turned against you. All those rounded, first-year edges sharpened. Is this a third-year set? Ida has to ask. Late second year. Vlad answers before Aizawa gets the chance. Aizawa here thought it'd be a good idea. These are the second-year sets? Next year's gonna be awesome. I don't want to do this, I hate amusement parks. Guys. Recovery girls on scene. Let's go on a ride. Can you please replace Fukudashi with Shinso? He's gonna end up killing someone. Low collateral people. You're not gonna make the rides fall over. Destroy the rides. Sure, the boys are easily quieted before the girls when midnight requests silence. The first duos are already lined up, for if you guys enter through there. You have a minute to find a good spot. This will help, Handy says. She's watching the live footage rather than looking at Katsuki though. It was a special occasion, so the videos were produced by fly cameras with inbuilt night light. I've got some good ideas while keeping damage to a minimum. Yeah. On the screen, the merry-go-round tips over before gently. Popping back into place, the bouncing, plastic horses attached going wild on their thick strings. Before Handy can reply, her words are cut off by her own gasp as the manga guy spins on its center pillar, calling random onomatopoeia out and jumping away from the merry-go-round. And soon, the merry-go-round's whirring around as if it'd never stop. Its horses reach out from underneath like flower petals, way further than it should be supposed to. And in a moment, Katsuki sees who that was targeting. Tape Face, who had been pursuing that otaku. The first spinning horse knees his gut, and he holds his stomach trying to catch a breath. His first mistake. The second horse whacks him in the head, and he gets the idea to move, holding his hand out to use his tape, but the third horse swiftly descends on him. Second mistake. Its hooved, plastic leg snaps his hand, crunching it back, before happily skipping over his head. Otaku cries something else out that makes the set stabilize in time. But not before Tape is holding his unnaturally bent hand and tearfully screaming. Every excruciating detail caught on a happy fly camera. It's nothing Recovery Girl can't fix, but seeing it so clearly makes it feel permanent. As if the plastic horse had kicked Katsuki's hand back instead. Katsuki breathes, watching Tape cripple, crouching underneath the next attacking horse. That was aggressive. Handy comments, agog. And it didn't damage anything. Except for someone's hand. What? You got an idea. Handy smiles, whispering in Katsuki's ear the same moment the speakers call Tape Face to come off the set. Even though the merry-go-round has halted completely, he takes his time getting up, the fly camera zooming in on his dented hand. The hoof was blunt enough that Katsuki couldn't catch a trail of blood anywhere on tape, but blood doesn't mean pain. The second-year sets are rough, someone says. What if that went to his face? Or his neck? I don't think we can do this. You think? I'm not getting on that set if it's the last thing I do. Come on, it was obviously Fukudashi's fault, not the set. You just want to go on the ride. I'm not entering that death trap. Quiet. Aizawa orders and everybody shuts up. Except some rando. I don't think I can do this, she whimpers. Komori flees from Izuku's side, sidling the girl with the horns. Tsudanori maybe. I don't think I can do this, Tsudanori repeats, rubbing her wrists. I don't. Hey, Komori says, and that's all Izuku can hear. From then on it's a comforting, unhearable whisper, and her clasping a hand on Tsudanori's wrist. Izuku can't tell whether that's to hold her in place or calm her down, maybe both. He shouldn't be looking, but turns out everybody else is too. Okay, Tsudanori replies, giving a feverish nod and a tiny smile. Replying in brisk English, which must be funny because Komori laughs. The two girls stay united afterwards, Komori not leaving Tsudanori's side until the match ends. Aizawa doesn't say anything about it, neither does Vlad or Midnight. Or All Might, who's not been participating as much as he's been hounding Kaken. Standing behind him and Kendo, even though they're both intent on ignoring him. The winning duo is Hagakure and Fukudashi. Midnight announces, mic suspiciously close to her smirking lips. Tsudanori and Yayorozu, Aways and Ida, Kodai and Tiu. Midnight looks up, landing on Komori and Tsudanori. Still reassuring each other. And Komori and... She scans down the list, Komori and Midoriya. Get ready for your next match. Despite how Komori's kindness landed them in the second round, the challenge blooms new ideas. And Izuku can't help but respect her for coming up to her friend like that, so fast to swarm her up in her hands and reassure her. Positioned at the edge of the set, watching the thousands of star-like lights. The quickly repaired set is seamless, topped with the smell of butter and sweets. Ambient speakers hike atop tall pillars, spitting out screams on rides, chatter, and any normal amusement park sound. But it's only eerie when the set has nobody else except students. Confusion stirring within Pony with every yelp of people that aren't there, screaming on a ride that isn't moving. She would have found it exhilarating a month ago, but she's been pondering on everything that could go wrong instead. Trapped in the swallowing CYCL of maybe. Pony breathes. Trying to remember this is the only round she'll be in, but it's no use. Are you all right? Yaoyorozu's kind voice chimes behind, hand gripping on her shoulders. You look sad. Sad? No, I'm just, Pony muses, I don't know. I don't know what's gotten into me. Well, I'm not one to suggest third-partying, but we can wait till there's action, Yaoyorozu says. Then in the meantime, we could talk about what's bothering you. No. I wouldn't want to change plans because. Pony looks up at Yaoyorozu, and she knows she's lost. Plopping down on the ground beside her, staring up at her dark eyes instead of the fake stars lighting up the faker sky. Her voice just below a squeak. I can't hear you. Yaoyorozu says, gaze unwavering. Pony mumbles. By the way Yaoyorozu's face changes, Pony knows she heard nothing. I'm worried. She blurts. Worried about what? Yaoyorozu asks, genuinely confused. Bakugu, Yaoyorozu clarifies. Pony worries her lip, that he's scary. She sounds silly. Forcing her eyes away from Yaoyorozu, she can find words easier, and the only other person I've told thinks I'm paranoid about it. I'm not paranoid. I don't want to have to train with him. At least not until this blows over. The teachers can't even do anything either because Pony stops. Yaoyorozu's glaring at her with eyes more dark than the simulated sky above. Pony feels the blood drain from her face, remembering something vital. This was the same student that saved Katsuki Bakugu from Kamino. Out of 20 students, she was the one of 4 that embarked on the journey to save him. And she just said that to her face. She just said all that to Bakugu's closest friend. Maybe. She can't even apologize before Yaoyorozu's cutting her off. I think he does that to everyone. Pony blinks, unsure of what she just heard, but Yaoyorozu doesn't stop there. There was this time during a test, I was walking past him, and he lit up his quirk to scare me. He kept lighting up his quirk for the rest of the test. What did you do? Nothing, Yaoyorozu says. It's Bakugu. You get freaked out and you walk away. Yaoyorozu turns her head around to see if any actions occurred. The only update is the blurry dash of the merry-go-round spinning at vomit-spilling speeds. Screams that sound too real for the speakers align with their mad turns. But he's not here, is he? So what's the problem? That. Pony says. The fact no one does anything? No, I'm just worried. Before this, it was better. Now it's just that. Just that. Training doesn't feel safe. Pony nods. Yaoyorozu flicks a finger on the ground, then leans back. Bakugu has his heart set on being a hero. He does, Pony agrees. It's admirable. I look up to his determination. This is where it comes, Pony decides. You do. He's probably the most determined, but I think his actions are rather aggressive. Yaoyorozu barks out a shocked laugh. I was going to say questionable. Oh, that, too. I don't think he'd actually hurt you. Yaoyorozu pauses thoughtfully. Pony waits for her to continue, but she doesn't look like she wants to. But the way the quirk's making him act out, I think he deserves a pass. Everyone's being hard on him, but he might not even be level-headed. Pony gulps. That would only make the situation much worse. Level-headed is a term used for people under quirks. To cut it short, if somebody's not level-headed, then they aren't even guilty for things like murder and go scot-free. The person who gets charged would be the caster, or the person who gave the quirk for not giving proper precautions. Or something like that. But that doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that, if Bakugu's not level-headed then, he could kill any of you. Pony stands, her absolute worry bubbling to terror. No, Yaoyorozu sighs, that's not true. But you think he's not level-headed. That's just something I theorized. Yeah? And you're really smart. So you'd think you'd tell someone about this. Identifying whether someone's level or not is a very complicated process. Yaoyorozu shouts, but hangs her mouth open as if she couldn't even believe her own words. In a careful voice, sorry for shouting. I meant that, it takes a psychologist to assess that, and only over the course of multiple therapy sessions. They'd have to compile a file and have people watching the person at all times, and since Bakugu's quirk is high risk, they'd also have to put him in a padded cell. And even if Bakugo wasn't level-headed, he's still very eccentric, Yaoyorozu explains. I'm not qualified to make any assumptions or… Then why would you say that? Pony shouts. I already… Then she's cut off by a remarkably close speaker. The sound of an exciting ride silenced to make room for All Might's eerily even voice. Pony Tsudanori and Momo Yaoyorozu, the entrance. Please. Pony knows she's screwed when she looks back. Catching the sharp glint of simulated moon on an especially nosy fly camera lens, eyeing them. Pony's jaw drops, and Yaoyorozu doesn't even spare a glance behind, steadily getting on her feet as if she already knew. Tsudanori's outburst was like a knife weaving under the roots of every student in that room. And while the school days ended, she's still in awe of how fast the rumor rocketed through UA. Even the third years knew about it, because the big three had arrived there at the right moment. Nijire was all for talking, so now the whole world knew because of her big, fat mouth. There it is. Bakugo's done it again. Katsuki Bakugo. It just happened like 4 or 5 hours ago. Like a feeble string trying to tie around a shaky boulder, Yoko can't wrap her head around it. And while Bakugo was her strength, because after she affected him, gone was the obscurity that her last name gave her, gone was the humiliation. In a long story short, her grandfather liked Tokyo so much, he changed his last name to it. The curse has spread through generations. The only significance she got was always, shouldn't you be in Tokyo? Or, you're literally a city girl then? Or other annoying remarks Yoko's heard a million times. But after she quirked Bakugo, her last name was the most appealing thing her class had ever heard. Not anymore. Not after Bakugo's no longer level-headed, and not after a policeman showed up at their dorms. Everybody knows what happened, and her old friends, who had loved her just yesterday, eye her with agitation from the common room couch. Yoko squirms at the door. Seeing the policeman pass the threshold. Are you going to arrest me? She squeaks. No. I'm just going to ask you some questions. He says cold as can be. Yoko's breakfast, lunch, and the dinner from yesterday bubbles up to her throat. She swallows it down with a nervous gulp, her hands cold with sweat as he guides her out. Yoko doesn't know where they are going even though she knows the whole of UA like the lines on her hand. She thinks to run back but she doesn't know how. Without her old friends, reporting her that is. She's already heard one of them call her a criminal anyways. Maybe she is. Yoko doesn't mean to be. Am I going to see him? Just questions. He says again, annoyed. I don't want to see him. He bothered me a while ago, and I won't talk if you make me see him. Right. You're not going to make me see him, right? Just questions. Yoko wants to ask what that even means, but they're entering the school now. Hall's empty now that the day's over, and something like guilt pummels her with every altering step. Like her world's rotating around her. Here's Yoko in a hero school with a single policeman leading her in. She wants to cry. Katsuki hadn't meant to do that. It was just horrible. His arms still ache from it, and he doesn't know what to feel except a snowballing dread. The person before him is either a detective or a shrink. Maybe both. Has to be both. The falsely kind eyes and the search starting up in them. They're nothing but agonizing to him, it only makes him want to trap everything inside him even more. You have a nice quirk, don't you? The detective shrink starts. Yeah, I'll use it to blast your head off, he wants to say. Explosion. It sounds painful, doesn't it? How does it work? I'll show you by blasting your head off. Such a loud quirk for a quiet person. Nobody's ever called Katsuki quiet before, so he pauses. Caught between laughter and the longing to decapitate him. It'll be the loudest thing the detective shrink will ever feel for the last moments of his miserable life. Except that would be too dramatic. And frankly, unheroic. Do you not like talking? Detective shrink asks. No, but I'd like to blast your head off. That's fine. Maybe you want something to drink? Relax a little? It would relax me a little if I could blast your head off. I get the feeling you're angry. At least you can use your head. Not for long though. Okay, let me get you a glass of water. He stands up from his seat and disappears through the door. Katsuki doesn't care if he'll be back. He's sure of what's going on but unsure of what's to come. Maybe he shouldn't have done that to Tsudanori, At least not in front of so many people. Or at least not after that conversation they had. Or maybe he shouldn't have done it at all. But the burst of anger was enriching, hot like steel, and it was the anger he was used to. It's not that he was angry at Tsudanori either. It was the fact he could choose to be. The excitement of going through rage again was like oiling a rusted engine, like he had returned home for the first time in weeks. A type of comfort you couldn't buy with all the money in the world. Katsuki just has to think angry thoughts. If he can be angry faster than his brain can extract it, what's there to stop him? Every emotion he's had has been stolen from him. What's worse than having your strongest emotion stolen? Nothing. And the fact he's been letting it happen. Maybe the word level-headed reminded him he had control over something. Because the opposite of level-headed is out of control. And Katsuki's going to prove to the world he has the best DMN control out of all of them. Right after he drinks some water. Your student, Aizawa, is being difficult. Nedzu sips his tea. So hot he can't taste a thing, like lava rushing down his throat. Just the way he likes. He breaks from the teacup and eyes the scribbly teacher before his desk. Sitting beside the other one, Vlad. Vlad blinks as if trying to relearn Japanese, so it's the scribbly Aizawa that intercepts. We should threaten expulsion if... No. Okay. You're so inclined to expel. Students, Nedzu shakes his head, is it that you're so incapable you expel them to make up for it? Vlad has the smug smile of a jock, but Aizawa doesn't lose a bit of assurance, having been twirled into this rodeo more than a couple times. It motivates them, he says, as always when approached with this question. Nedzu really should stop making empty promises to remove Aizawa's authority on expulsion and just do it. But then again, he hasn't expelled anybody this year. Although his impertinent suggestions are rather annoying. You can't motivate them yourself? Vlad asks, smiling. Reading Nedzu's thoughts apparently. Remind me, Aizawa says, rolling his head to Vlad, the last time your class went against mine and won. Another problem with these teachers, a big reason Nedzu would rather email them than meet up in person, is the bickering. Even coded under a calm face and fake reason, it's as clear as day. Well, to anyone except the first years. But the first years aren't that clever when it comes down to it. And while it's entertaining to everybody else, now isn't the time. Nedzu clears his throat. And at least they get the hint, because they're now facing him. If you don't mind, we have an actual problem at hand. And the thing is, no matter how much Udare pushes, Nedzu says, remembering how easily he was shut down. Though he keeps his calm by diving into his tea, snout getting scalded in the process. The authorities can't keep him forever. Especially if he won't say a word. Expel him. Surprisingly, but also not too surprising, it's Vlad who says it. Definitely sore over what happened to one of his students. Not if he's out of control. Aizawa glowers at his scarf. Good, Nedzu thinks, he gets it. And we can't risk getting sued. Vlad realizes. Can't you just buy good lawyers then? Aizawa asks. Never mind. He doesn't get it. All he needs is one sticky note from a psychiatrist to win. It doesn't matter if we get the best lawyer in the world, Nedzu says, recalling a dark time when he tried to go through with Aizawa's exact idea. In a situation a little similar, long before Aizawa was even working here, and guess what? Udare lost. The school was on a tight budget for a whole week before the government refilled Udare's wallet. Undeniably, that week was the worst week in Nedzu's life. Even if it was technically only 4 days. He fervently sips his tea, ignoring the concerned gazes from Vlad and Aizawa, as if the whole story played out on his face. Anyways, let me just get to the point. Nedzu drops his tea on the table, smiling as hard as he can. He's almost forgotten how much he hates sitting in a courtroom, but leave it to the first-year teachers to remind him while derailing the conversation. Bakugu's returning to class tomorrow, and it's your job to look after him. The look on Aizawa's face is priceless, and Vlad's is even funnier. As if swallowing down a roar, a scream, and confused laughter simultaneously. Instead of doing any, Vlad just squints, clearing his face and going, fine. So we have to babysit him? Aizawa sighs. Always the difficult one. Precisely, and for an indefinite time too. Should be worth an indefinite bonus as well. Nedza says, forcing his smile, it really is hard working with heroes, always so stubborn. They're lucky they're teaching anyways, since they all have a fraction of an education degree. Well, except the third-year teachers, they're the qualified ones. So it's just our job? Vlad asks. No other teachers? Aizawa echoes. Of course there are other teachers, Nedza says, the whole first-year staff. I was even considering home therapy for Bakugo, just so an adult's watching him in the dorms, but all might agree to do that so we aren't adding another school counselor to the dock. For a split second, Nedzu can almost catch a flash of shame on Aizawa's face. But maybe it's just his energy being sapped. But since Vlad cares more, he asks, you talked to All Might one-on-one too? I've talked to everybody else, but it wasn't one-on-one, explains Nedzu. That meeting, although with more people, was quicker than this. Simpler too. Not with the questions of expulsion and the reminder of a bitter lawsuit. Again, the two give him that concerned look, and Nedzu has to take comfort in his tea. Did we miss the meeting invitation? Asks Aizawa. Although he seems to be bracing himself for Nedzu's response. You weren't invited. I thought one-on-one with you two would smoothen this out, Nedzu says, since it would be bad if you failed at something this easy. Now then, I believe this meeting is over. Aizawa's quick to escape from his chair, Vlad fumbling a little. Their faces prove his words are already rattling in their skulls, a carefully embroidered reminder they won't forget. The thought of failing at something easy, for some reason, always riles the determination in long-term heroes. Always makes them want to do something more. But it's Bakugo, so of course Nedzu has to go the extra mile. Aizawa is at his office door, stepping out before Nedzu calls, wait. And I've thought of your teaching style, Aizawa. And? He asks, not even hiding his impatience. I think it's worth experimenting with. Nedzu says. What? Aizawa says, scarf drooping, what are you saying? Vlad stops, watching. I said it's something worth experimenting with. Don't you understand? Aizawa ponders for a long time, before the blood drains from his face. He must think it's a joke for a moment, or a misunderstanding, but Nedzu smiles. The type of smile that confirms all his bad suspicions. You do your job well, keeping them safe, and I have to admit, it's incredible nobody in 1A has died yet. Or withdrawn. But I think that's even more reason to be a little harder on you. Nedzu says, sipping his tea casually. The tea has cooled down now, from volcanic hot to glowing iron hot. He'll need to microwave it again. You're the only teacher that's experienced these troubles this year, so take this as a little motivation. When Aizawa doesn't move, Nedzu doesn't forget to add, you're excused. Something happened. For the first time in months, the ticking time bomb of 1A blew off. But maybe, just maybe, Aijiro contemplates, Bakugo isn't a ticking time bomb. Maybe he's more of a chemical. Because the thing about chemicals is that they usually don't set off untouched. Take nitroglycerin. It doesn't just blow for no reason, even if the slightest rustle of wind can detonate it. Maybe that's what Aijiro was expecting of Bakugo, but it wasn't just a light breeze that set him off. It was more like the pressure of the two classes squeezing on him. And maybe, just maybe, the quirk. For a little recap, Monoma hasn't said a word, but he's been completely jailed in the dorms. Also, the rumors Aijiro scavenges are scattered and disconnected. One says Monoma attacked Tsudanori instead of Bakugo, another they're dating, another that the person responsible for Bakugo's quirk malfunction got arrested, and the other is that they're a druggie. To be fair, Aijiro never thought of the person responsible until now. He just thought of Bakugo. Mostly their thinning friendship, but it doesn't matter now. After just 3 days since the gym scuffle, Aijiro only wants to forget it. But it's becoming increasingly hard. Why did Bakugo even do that? Why did Monoma engage? Why couldn't Aizawa pull them off quicker? Why is Aijiro pretending like everybody should have just expected it? And Bakugo's coming back later tonight. Of course on it. School day, middle of the week, when the classes are over and done with for today. At least everybody else made the common room look nice for his grand return, but Aijiro couldn't bring himself to help. He doesn't think he wants to see Bakugo, nor be a part of his return. Aijiro doesn't understand a lot, and he surely doesn't get why things would change. It's not like Bakugu's coming back as who he was before. There's probably a better chance of MT Fuji just toppling over for no DMN reason. So why does Aijuru shift in his bed, hoping just slightly that maybe it can come true? Maybe his wish can happen and reality will bend the rules just this once. It's a wish that's muttered into the cloth of his pillow, which definitely doesn't have ears, but listens to Aijuru vent out every worry he has. It's probably going to be doing that for the rest of the night too. But somebody knocks on his door. A muffled voice from behind that begs to be answered and another knock. Aijuru gets up from his bed, nearly tripping on the discarded weights beside, but catching himself. He gets to the door, opens it, and sees Midoriya on the other side, breathing. Kaken's back. Midoriya declares, out of breath, as if he ran all the way here from the common room. He probably did. Aijuru nods, sweat collects in his palm and he sighs. He feels as if he's about to tap a pencil down on a major test. Maybe it is a test with Midoriya always calculating everybody. How can it not be? Midoriya looks hard at him, expecting something, so Aijuru shrugs. Cool. That's nice. He moves to close the door, but Midoriya laughs. Then he leans against the door, a shy grin on his face. No, he's back. Are you crying? He pouts and shakes his head, but his eyes glow with collecting tears. As if it really was something worth every inch of emotion he could spare. If Aijuru missed Bakugu, then Midoriya grieved for Bakugu. Suddenly he's leaving the door. The impact of Midoriya's words touches him as he shoves him out of the way, and Midoriya doesn't complain. He doesn't even say a word, just watches him go. Hurrying down the stairs without as much as an apology, heart leaping in his chest. Bakugu's back. Aijuru nearly falls down the stairs so many times in his haste, but it doesn't matter. He's zooming into the common room and it's bustling with talk. The hum of the TV behind and Aijuru catches All Might, standing behind the kitchen counter and drinking a glass of water. Hi, Aijuru greets. Ah, young Kirishima, did you run down the stairs? All Might asks, but Aijuru's already off again. Where is he? Where is he? The common room is full of students, but none of them blonde or loud or threatening. The kitchen only had All Might in it, and the dining room was utterly empty except for some people wandering around. Aijuru hadn't been hoping to see Bakugu tonight, in fact dreading it, but the fact he can't see him in the common room is crushing. He frowns, staring around. If he isn't in the kitchen, or the dining, or the common room, he has to be outside. Hey, Kirishima? Ashido calls from the couch. Look behind you, will you? He lets his hopes fly as he turns around, and they break through the ceiling. Oi! Bakugu! Aijuru pauses and realizes. He's actually back. Like actually back. Completely physical and totally talking to him right now. Even if it sounds like he's relearning how to speak and say every phrase he's typical to, he's back. What greater gift could be out there? Are you effing crying? No. I'm just Are you really? It's not that big of a demon deal, but he's grinning as if he was waiting for this. Aijuru almost wonders if he had been hiding, just waiting to spring up behind him. Man, can I have to tell you all about that quirk you were on and, oh God you're here. If you want to tell me, you're real goddamn late. Where the hell were you anyways? Sorry, Aijuru says. Remembering himself just seconds from now, thinking MT Fuji falling would be a more likely reality, but here he is. Standing in front of normal Katsuki Bakugu and saying sorry. The normalcy of all this is weird, alien even. But it's a nice type of weird that leaves his fingers tingling for more. He reaches his hand out. I had to use the washroom. He hears some of his friends snicker at that, but he keeps his face straight. Well, as straight as he can in front of him. Then Aijuru ball his hand, jitters all over his body. Fine. And Bakugu reaches his own fist out, and fist bumps him. A scowl on his face the whole way, even as he turns around. People laugh, but Aijuru can't tell if it's because of what just happened or because everybody just feels like laughing. Even Aijuru feels like laughing. He's been sulking over nothing for so long he needs to laugh. I'm going to bed, Bakugu announces, like he always does around this time. Come on man, you just returned. We miss you, Ashido sings. Then Idru realizes he could have just waited along like her, on the sidelines, and Bakugo would have popped back to normal anyways. All the worrying he did must have taken years off his life. You're 16. Not 60. Kaminari calls. See, even All Might doesn't sleep that early. And like always they try to convince him to stay a little longer. And like always he walks away and leaves. Unable to be persuaded no matter what. Fine. Nevermind. Idru can't complain though. He runs to the couch and everybody's making room for each other, and when there's not enough, people fill up the carpet. They eventually pick a movie, and Midoriya comes down in time to start it with them. Idru and Bakugo sit together on the couch. He couldn't be happier, and he's sure Bakugo is too. Because Bakugo's truthfully back and nothing could stop them now. Unless, of course, he was lying. Idru almost laughs at the idea. Bakugo's so transparent and honest, there's no way he could fake something like this. He probably would have been found out hours ago. So the movie starts and Idru smiles. The lights are off and the only glow comes from the TV and phones from disinterested people. I'm happy you're back, Idru whispers, leaning to him. It was so boring without you. Bakugo doesn't respond, he just nods his head. Invested in the movie already. Idru sits up to watch too. But as he does, Bakugo whispers back, I know. And Idru agrees none of them could be happier than now.